When Killian entered the room, I felt he must have heard me, bragging to Scarlet. The heat in his eyes had me dropping my book and crossing my legs, my mouth drying. You are back early, I muttered as he shrugged off his coat. What are you reading? He asked, walking over to me. Only then did I remember I had been absent-mindedly flipping through an erotic novel. Nothing. I hid the book between the cushion and my body. When I told Sabrina to help me with a book from the library since I was avoiding the eyes and rumors following me everywhere I went, I did not expect her to return with a stack of R-rated novels and a large grin. Nothing? Killian reached for the book wedged between me and the chair, and I caught his hand. If you hide like this, it only makes me more curious about what you are reading. He informed me with a murmur and a devilish glint in his eyes. I felt my skin heat, and I looked away from him. He crouched before me, his hand on mine as I held the book down. It is just a book. I looked away from him. Sabrina brought it, and, goddess, I wished the ground would open up and swallow me on the spot. His gaze mocked me as I struggled to defend myself. What is it about, then? You seemed engrossed in it when I came it. No, I had been absent-mindedly flipping through the book while thinking of Cedric. But I could not tell him that, could I? It's not like that. I trailed off as more excuses formed in my head. Then I answered truthfully. I was an adult, so why should I be ashamed of reading adult books? It's just an erotic book that... It was easier to imagine not being ashamed because the minute the words spilt from my lips and Killian's lips curved upwards, I felt heat bloom on my cheeks. I wonder what prompted you to read erotic books, he said slyly, and then I made the mistake of letting go of the book to cover my rapidly burning cheeks. In a swift swoop, he grabbed the book and flipped it open. What are you? I reached for the book, but he stood. This is quite explicit, Luna, he mumbled. The king's slender fingers parted the queen's glistening petals and slowly, teasingly pressed. Stop! I screamed, jumping up after him. He burst into laughter as I attacked him for the book. Goddess, I hadn't even known the book had such explicit content. I only focused on the beginning before I drifted off in thoughts, but now... Did you think about me while reading this? His voice dipped low and my eyelids quivered. The king and the queen. He must think I was reading this imagining. No, stop. No. I made the mistake of looking up at his face, and then I blanched at the heat I saw reflected in his eyes. Why are you... I wanted to ask why he was looking at me like that, but it was clear. I swallowed thickly and took a step back from the predatory heat in his eyes, only to fall backwards. Strong arms gripped my waist before I tumbled back into my seat and pulled me flush against a hard chest. I can see where I want my mark on you. Possessiveness rang in his voice. For everyone to see you are mine. He nuzzled his face into my neck. Mine. An animalistic growl sounded in his voice, making me freeze. Kill. The words died on my throat as he sucked on my flesh. I reverted back to my polite mode, but the words died on my tongue as his lips covered mine, his tongue swooping in a heartbeat. A staggering thrill spread inside me as he deepened the kiss, pulling me even closer to himself, almost squashing me. He sucked and kissed my lips with a ferocious abandon that had my head swimming. Kill. I breathed his name and I felt his body hum. He picked me off my feet and moved me to the bed. Killian, I moaned his name this time as he climbed atop me. There was something exhilarating about having his body atop mine. I felt cocooned, wrapped in warmth, and at the same time, it felt filthy. He continued to kiss me while taking off my clothes. I was vaguely aware of my outerwear coming off and then my innerwear. Then my insides trembled. We had done this a couple of times now, but this time it was different. The attraction I once felt for him had tripled. When he touched me, it felt like being struck by lightning. It was jarring to feel so much from such a small and simple touch. I was grateful it was nighttime already, because if I had to be bared like this in the daytime, I may have combusted. Stop teasing me. I looked away from him, but he gripped my chin and forced my gaze back in him. Look at me, Queen, he commanded. If you take your eyes off me, I may be tempted to tease you more. I almost closed my eyes, but his words were not a fluke. Stop biting your lips, he murmured. His eyes darkened and his voice thickened. It became harder to keep the moans at bay, so I bit my lips again, this time hard enough to draw blood. The metallic taste of blood filled my tongue, but before I completely registered the taste, warm lips touched mine and coaxed my mouth open. His fingers worked faster, almost jackhammering into me. I told you not to bite your lips. He pulled away from me with a slight grin, and the sounds I tried to stop spilt out. Ah, please, I gasped. Please what? He asked, his finger working me. Tell me what you want. I knew what I wanted, but I could not verbalize it. My brain scrambled as my guts tightened, and a familiar sensation washed over me. As I neared orgasm, his fingers suddenly withdraw, and I cried out in frustration. What? Why? I asked in annoyance, watching with half-hooded eyes as he moved away from me, ripping off his clothes. In the blink of an eye, he was as naked as I was. What? We were saying something, he gritted out. What do you want? It was obvious what I wanted. Him inside me. From the way he gnashed his teeth, it was clear he wanted it also, but he was adamant about me saying it. You cannot have anything except you ask. You, I gasped. Inside me. My skin burned with mortification, but I did not have time to dwell on that. I got what I wanted as soon as I asked, and my mind went blank for a split second. I felt stuffed full, and it was a feeling I'd come to love. Firm hands grabbed my waist and pulled me down. Ah. Sorry, he muttered in a hoarse tone. He flexed his hips and tickled something inside me. My eyes widened and my mouth fell open. You like that? My eyes rolled back in my head as he hit that spot, and then he continued, hitting it over and over again, reducing me into a salivating mess, crying out his name. Too, I gasped. Too fast. Ah, slow. My mind blanked as a sudden orgasm hit me, but he did not slow down. As if possessed, he locked my thighs in a tight embrace, even as my body rippled with the effects of an orgasm. He turned me on my side, holding my leg up as he continued his movement, muttering words I could not hear. Your Majesty, Killian. I sobbed his name as he pulled me closer, tightening his grip on me. You are mine, he growled, his red eyes darkening. You are mine, he repeated numerous times, and I agreed. Yes, My body froze as his head lowered to my neck and he nibbled on my skin, and then in one swift movement, his teeth sunk into my skin and I felt him release inside me. I woke up in a different world with body aches all over. I took a deep breath and expelled it before opening my eyes, and I caught him staring at me with a heated look in his eyes, a look that made me blush. Good morning. He spoke in a small whisper that tickled my skin and something weird seized my insides. Good morning. I turned my head away, feeling my heart pound in a way I didn't understand. All along, it felt like I'd been riding on the back of a predator, and it was only a matter of time before I got devoured, but now the apprehension was gone. Now, the death of one meant the death of the other, as such was the curse of true mates. So close, yet so far. He grabbed me as I tried to get out of bed. Where are you going? His hand wrapped around my waist as he held me close. Our hearts beat in sync now.
We had done the deed. Mated. Joined for life. It was exciting, I would not lie. His essence flowed through me through the invisible threads of the mate bond. I already felt his emotions, and soon it would be difficult to tell where one of us started and the other ended. In rare cases, true mates could communicate through a special mind link only they could access. That thought made me pause.
We have never been particularly close, but I can feel you trying to put more distance between us. I realized then that I'd been trying to get his hands off me. Amethyst? Or should I call you Carrot? I cringed as the name rolled off his tongue. No, I'd rather never hear that name again. I pursed my lips and gave up trying to get his hands off my waist. Can I know why? I pursed my lips again. Do you not think it is weird that we are mates and have been together for over a month? but still know nothing about each other? I told you already, my name is Amethyst. I don't know how the name Carrot came to be, but it was what I was called in Red Lake Pack. Being reminded of those people put a bitter taste in my mouth, but I swallowed it down. Noah was dead. My business with Red Lake Pack was done. A small voice in my head reminded me that Noah was not the only one who made life hell for me in that pack. Sylvia, Bella, the Luna, all those people who made it a point of pushing me down every time I managed to stand. How would they feel to experience the things they put me through? Not Carrot, got it, Killian muttered. Then he peered into my face. You have a scary look in your eyes. Red Lake. The name dropped from my lips. You cannot steal them from me. You are cute when you get all vindictive. He smiled, the look so sugary sweet, it looked foreign and displaced on his face. I can make no promises, but I will try. His gaze sharpened. But I am a bit hurt that the first thing you think of while wearing my mark is Red Lake. He started to press open lipped kisses to my collarbone, his saliva cooling my skin and heating my insides. I can change that. His eyes glowed red. I will change that. Finally, he kissed me, his lips molding with mine in what felt like perfection. I sighed. My wolf sighed. And every other thing in the world ceased to exist. There was just Killian and me, the fullness in my heart and the urge to stay in his arms, in that position, forever. Unfortunately, he was the Alpha King, and thus he did not have the luxury to while away time. I greet the Luna Queen. Sabrina did not bow. No, she grinned at me as if she had won the lottery and I was a pot of gold. Good morning, I yawned as I pushed myself into a sitting position, wrapping the sheets around me. It's afternoon, she corrected with a grin that took over most of her face. Ella, do you mind getting the scented soap the Queen sent? I forgot it on my way here. Ella looked from Sabrina to me, but I shrugged. She took that as her cue to leave. What are people saying? I asked when the door shut behind Ella. Oh, my lady, I am so excited for you. She looked like she would launch herself into my arms, but thankfully she thought better of it. My body ached from head to toe and my insides felt like I had lava instead of blood. What is Scarlet up to? Ella will be here soon, so be quick. I gritted my teeth as I got out of bed. My legs were wobbly and my vision blanked for a split second as I stood. My lady, Sabrina rushed forward, are you all right? Pain knifed my insides, but I gritted out a smile. It's the mark, my wolf whispered, anxiety coating her tone. You are resisting the mark. Why? My hands trembled. How can I resist my mate's mark? Was there a mistake? Killian was my mate, and I'd never heard of true mates resisting each other's marks. The other side. The witch, my wolf whispered the word as if it was a taboo. That strange man, we need to ask that strange man. I am confused, but I can feel something in us fighting the mark. But it's not me, I swear it's not me. I saw Cedric the previous day, and he would contact me within the week. There was no way for me to contact him on my own. What was I supposed to do? Luna, Sabrina, held my bicep. Does that mean we aren't mated? I asked my wolf. Nothing can come between a mate bond. Not you and not Killian. There was a bit of a snarl in her tone. So what was happening to me? Whether or not you want the mark, the bond is now impossible to sever. I am sorry. She didn't sound sorry. How could I reject an already completed bond? What is Scarlet planning? I focused on the present, pretending my insides weren't turning as my being rejecting my destiny. I'm just a bit fatigued. I lied through my teeth as Sabrina peered at me. Killian was... I left the sentence trailing, and Sabrina was quick to fill in the gap. Oh. Her face brightened. I will bring you tea. My mum taught me how to make this herbal. She started on a rant, but I cut her off. I'm sorry, but I'm just so excited. It's Scarlet's birthday in a week, and she was going to host a party in the Queen's Red Court. The Dowager Queen gave her permission, and I've been so pissed. She gritted her teeth. It's reserved for the Queen, so she definitely did this to throw shade. But now you are the Queen, so you can take charge of everything the Dowager Queen still controls. She was almost out of breath when she finished, her face red and fists clenched. Why am I just hearing about this party? She paled. My lady, I knew it would upset you since, well, it's not something you could change. Am I so powerless that I cannot do something about an ordinary birthday party? W. Well, it would be crass to get the Alpha King involved in women's business, which was what Scarlet was aiming for, so I thought, do me a favor and leave the thinking to me. Maybe Sabrina wasn't good enough. She was eager and easy to buy, but what if she was playing double agent against me? Yes, ma'am. She bowed her head. So what would you do? The party is scheduled for Saturday, and only the person in charge of the palace's management can alter Miss Scarlet's plans. In 4 days. By now, everyone would know of our mating. Those that knew of Scarlet's party would anticipate my next move. The queen may not hand over unless there was a proper ceremony, and even then, people would paint me as desperate and insecure if the first thing I did with the authority of the Luna Queen was to cancel the birthday party of my mate's former betrothed. Saturday is a beautiful day for a Luna ceremony. Sabrina blinked. But the timing. I would like to speak with my mate. The power of the Alpha King was absolute. He could order people to move mountains if he pleased, and they would find a way to obey his command. What was a Luna's ceremony that could not be planned in 4 days given the power of the Alpha King? Scarlet, you can have a party in a hall reserved for the queen, but wouldn't it be lovely to be crowned Luna Queen while you use my property? Killian was mine, and having a woman try to fight me for him made my wolf snarl. You want to have the ceremony on Saturday? Killian asked, his eyes straying from my face to the mating mark on full display on my neck. Yes. I hope that wouldn't be a problem. I touched the mark on my neck, feeling self-conscious. I am the Alpha King, he mumbled, glancing at my neck again, and you are my queen. We can have the ceremony today if you so please. No, Saturday will be fine. Any specific reason? He fingered his collar, and I touched the mark again. I shook my head. There was no reason to get him involved in women's business. Very well. If you want it to be on Saturday, then it will be on Saturday. My wolf purred in satisfaction. Thank you. I got out of my seat to leave the office, but I caught his frown. Is there a problem? I asked. No, just... He trailed off. Is that all you came here for? I nodded with a frown and watched his expression close off. Very well. You may be on your way then. He turned his head and went back to work. I exited his office with the sinking feeling that I'd said the wrong thing. Just as I reached for the door handle, I turned to chance a quick glance at him and met him glaring at me with narrowed eyes, and I fled. When I got to the room, I let my wobbly legs collapse into the bed. I felt a fever start inside me, but I pretended it was not there. I'd be meeting Cedric soon, so I had to hold out. He was the only one who I could ask about this. Did hybrids reject mating marks? He was the only one I could ask, as he was the only one who knew my secret. You should tell Killian, my wolf butted in. He is the Alpha King. He would have all the answers. It would not be an exaggeration to say my wolf was obsessed with Killian. He wants me because I am powerless, I reminded her. He may see me as a threat if he finds out about this. Besides, didn't Cedric say hybrids are hunted? It's best to know what I can do with this power before broadcasting it. He chose you for being powerless. Things are different now, my wolf stressed. We are mates now. We can trust him. It was easier said than done. I never learnt to trust anyone. The pack I called my home had betrayed me as many times as they could, and Killian could do the same. A mating mark could not change his personality in the blink of an eye. He may not toss me out or kill me because we were now mates, but it did not change the fact that he was power-hungry, and even the slightest threat to that power would bring out his true colors. We are not powerful, though, my wolf sneered, mocking me. For the next couple of days, I entertained several guests, from the event planners to dressmakers, jewelers, caterers, name it. The palace was abuzz, but the closer the ceremony approached, the more I wished I handled Scarlet's issue in a different manner. I was sick, and Cedric was nowhere to be found. Sabrina and Killian thought the stress from planning a Luna ceremony was too much for me, but it was far worse than that. My insides were twisting and turning at every second of the day, and sweat poured off me all the time. It wasn't because of the heat, no. I burned from the inside, and my vision wavered more often than it didn't. A knock sounded on my door, and Sabrina poked her head into the room before I could speak. "Are you okay, Luna?" I nodded at the concern in her eyes. "Alpha Hawk. Alpha Hawk has come to see you. He is waiting in the living room." Her face was as ripe as a tomato as she spoke. The hair on my nape stiffened, and the heat inside me intensified. "What does he want?" I muttered, my mind spinning. All along, I dealt with Scarlet, and she was easy to deal with. Her temper got the best of her most times, and she acted like a child throwing a tantrum when things did not go as she pleased. But her father, what could he possibly want with me? He says he wants to see you for an urgent matter. My heart skipped a beat at those words. What could Alpha Hawk have to say to me? Did it have anything to do with Scarlet's birthday? Was he going to threaten me to leave Killian? Okay, I'll be there. I got out of bed and smoothened down my dress, feeling my heart beat 1,000,000 miles an hour, my vision sway, and my knees buckle. I was halfway down the hall when Killian's face flashed through my mind. It happened a lot these days. I would be reading a book, and the next second would find me thinking about Killian. My heart calmed at the thought of my mate, and my wolf said something that had me rethinking my steps. Who is Alpha Hawk to call for us without notice? I stopped walking at that question. Is anything the matter, miss? Sabrina stopped beside me. Are you still feeling unwell? Remind me, my words came out slowly. Who am I? She looked at me as if I had lost my senses. Miss Amethyst? She sounded unsure. Who is Miss Amethyst? You are? She still sounded unsure. Miss... She started to say something before her eyes widened. You are the Luna Queen. Who is Alpha Hawk to show up unannounced and demand my presence? She bit her lips. The former queen. She started but stopped. It was my mistake. It was also mine for not thinking twice before answering his call as if he had the right, the authority to summon the Luna Queen. I stopped in front of the door separating me from Alpha Hawk and took a deep breath. Why should a man who ranked lower than me make my heart beat like this? Why was I scared of a man who already lost the game before it started? He is dangerous. That single whisper from my subconscious had me reeling. He may have killed Prince Seth. I opened the door to the Queen's living room to see 3 familiar faces. Alpha Hawk, Scarlet, Killian's stepmother. They all wore matching looks of disgust as if I was filth stuck to the bottom of their expensive shoes. Another person would cower. Even I felt like fleeing or avoiding their gazes as I walked into the room, but I held my head up. My knees wobbled. They must hear my heart beat faster than usual as I entered the room under their collective hard gazes, but I held my head up as I took a seat. Queen Cordelia sat on the largest seat in the room, her dress large and brightly colored with the queen's crown on her head. I watched the crown on her head and saw her smile. Alpha Hawk had a stern gaze and he reeked of power and malevolence. I did not know when I started to fear him. Maybe the discovery of what he did to Prince Seth opened my eyes to how much power he controlled and how much evil he could get away with, but being in the same room as him made breathing difficult. You are all very rude. I opened the floor as 3 pairs of eyes glared at me. Who are you to summon the Luna Queen and sit before she does? Silence. A beat. Then laughter. Alpha Hawk clutched his belly as he doubled over in laughter, the sound loud and boisterous as if I just told the best joke. When he raised his head, mirth and anger danced in his eyes that flashed the red of his wolf. Kalia froze. His wolf, she whispered. You are quite an interesting child, he schooled his expression. Why, his wolf is familiar. Kalia said, sounding breathless. Let's get straight to business, shall we? He leaned back in his seat and crossed his legs. Even the Dowager Queen, who had more authority than he did not seem half as intimidating as this man, despite her regalia. Saturday is Scarlet's birthday, so you cannot have a Luna ceremony on that day. Who will stop me? It was a wonder my voice did not shake, considering how my heart shook. Tut-tut, I am not done. You will not have a Luna ceremony on Saturday, or well, ever. He held my gaze and a cold shiver racked through my spine. Even if you do not care about your mate and his precarious political position, you should care about yourself. Amethyst, are you familiar with this man? My wolf asked, but I could not answer her. I had my gaze fixed on Alpha Hawk. Are you threatening me? I asked, my voice dipping low. Yes. He did not flinch. His daughter shifted beside him. This kingdom is what it is because of Dark Moon, and it is time we receive what we are owed. The seat of the Luna Queen is ours. If Prince Seth were alive, I started, but the queen shrieked, as if I'd stabbed straight through her heart. Do not speak that name with your filthy mouth, you. I turned to her, and the slur on her lips died. Her eyes were red, fiery. She looked on the verge of shifting, hair covering the exposed parts of her arms. You should not speak that name, she growled, but I turned away from her. If Prince Seth were alive, Scarlet may have made it to that seat. The queen growled again. But there is no longer a chance that would happen. I turned to Scarlet. Her emerald eyes had murder in them. If only you had been content with Prince Seth. Her expression wavered. But you wanted Killian and the Luna's seat, didn't you? She paled. I felt Hawk's gaze bore into me, so I turned to him. See this mark. I fingered the collar of my dress to show my mating mark. This is the mark of the Luna Queen. This mark makes me royalty, and you know what it means to touch me. He still had a smirk on his lips and a sharp glint in his eyes. You may have gotten away with it once, but I am not Prince Seth. You silly bitch. The queen flew out of her seat, but I jumped away in time. A perk of having a warrior as a mate, my head spinning at how fast I moved. Who are you to mention his name with that unclean mouth? She raged at me as Scarlet rushed to hold her. My death will not be ruled as suicide. I addressed Alpha Hawk. The next time you want to see me, you will have to book a formal appointment, I muttered, feeling my legs vibrate. I grabbed a chair to steady myself. Once, he cleared his throat, folding his arms. Once, I knew a woman like you. His gaze sharpened. That defiance will be your doom. A woman like me, but not me. I smiled, but it felt like I would collapse soon. Where was Cedric? By Saturday, I will be crowned the official Luna Queen, and your daughter and pack can mourn the opportunity you missed because of your greed. I exited the room and doubled over, clutching my chest at how much it hurt from the way my heart pounded. It felt like the onset of a heart attack, but my kind did not have those. What was happening? Luna, you are bleeding. Sabrina staggered under my weight as darkness enveloped my world. Killian. Your Majesty. Alpha. Zion entered my office with his head downcast and his hands clasped behind him. What is it? He came bearing bad news, and I already had enough bad news for the week. It seemed a mating mark changed nothing for Amethyst. I may be the only one affected by our new mate bond, and it drove me crazy. How could she not feel the need to be together all the time, to hold each other and just watch each other, breathe? My restraint had already reached a snapping point, and it angered me that I could not do all these things with her. While I tried to close the distance between us, she tried to put even more distance between us. The more I held on, the more she pulled away. I was not the clingy sort. I would be damned if I held a woman who did not crave my embrace, but with Amethyst, I found myself constantly confused. How would I go about wooing my mate? Why did I have to woo a woman who was already mine? The dynamics had changed. I would be blind not to see. She had been nothing but a means to an end when we first met, but now I felt something twist inside me with every blank stare she gave me. I wanted her to smile, wanted her to embrace me sweetly. I needed her to want me the way I wanted her. Your Majesty, are you listening? Zion asked, his head still bowed. I could not listen, could not focus. Amethyst's indifference to our mate bond pinched something inside me and the strange man from the other day. Your Majesty, the man is gone. The silver chains you asked us to shackle him with are there, but he is not. That grabbed my attention. What silver chains? My head snapped up. Are you telling me the bastards is gone? He nodded, bowing even lower. I got out of my seat without even knowing. My legs took me to the dungeons, and Zion rushed after me. Getting to the dungeons, I looked into the cell which once held the criminal that dared put his hand on my mate. Where he should have been shackled to silver sat empty. When did he leave? I asked Zion, who avoided my gaze. Answer me before I come up with my own answers. Your Majesty, I shackled him as you asked me to, but there were no further instructions, so I did not come back to check on him. His shoulders quivered as he bowed his head, and the urge to hit something slammed into me. If he can get out of silver, then I looked at the silver chains and cuffs laying on the ground, making a mockery of me. Find him. I cleared my throat, placing a hand on the hilt of my sword for comfort. I am giving you 24 hours. On my way back to the office, an apprehensive woman blocked my path. Your Majesty. My wolf instantly went on alert. Where is Amethyst? I walked past her before she had the chance to reply. I can't feel her. My wolf paced as I rushed back to our quarters. If anything happens to her. Styx let his words trail off. If anything happened to Amethyst, he would first burn this wretched kingdom to the ground before he went to rest with his mate. Your Majesty, she suddenly fainted. The woman running to keep up with my strides said, It may be. I do not know what Alpha Hawk did, but the lady. She spoke some words, made some sentences, but nothing registered in my head. Something was terribly wrong with my mate, and my stomach was in knots. The door slammed against the wall as I threw it open to see the royal physician peering into her face. Amethyst. I gathered her into my hands as I took a seat on the bed. Despite looking pale and lifeless, her body burned hotter than a furnace. My heart stuttered. I swallowed as I felt sweat form atop my brows, and the knots in my stomach tightened. Your Majesty, if I may have some space? The physician gave me a pointed look. My brain understood his request, but my body refused to comply. Rather than let her go and give the physician space to work, I clutched her tighter, willing her to open her eyes, willing the fire burning her up to be transferred to me. What is happening to her? I asked the physician, who shook his head. Without examining her, it will be impossible to tell. Again, he gave me another pointed look. If you could step aside a bit, I was supposed to protect her. Amethyst! I squeezed her, shook her even, but I got no response. For an overwhelming second, her face overlapped with Seth's, and a sharp knife plunged into my chest. My body froze, and breathing became impossible as the room closed in around me. I cannot lose you. My arms lost their strength, but I could not let her go. Was I destined to watch those I called mine leave in the blink of an eye? To lose her would be to lose. Your Majesty, please calm down and let me check her. I believe it is a simple illness, the physician was saying, but I feared she would slip through my fingers at any moment. I held her tighter as my stomach contracted. There was a knock on the door. Someone opened it to usher in another person, but I clutched my mate to myself, half lifting her off the bed. Killian? I felt a hand grip my shoulder. It may get worse if you do not let the physician attend to her. I lifted heavy eyes to see Orion staring down at me. Come on, it's just a fever. Let him attend to her. The physician pried her from me while Orion wrestled me away. I resisted. My wolf resisted. Yet I knew they were right. Amethyst would be fine. If anything were to happen to her, I could not let myself think of the possibilities. Killian, you are overreacting. If looks could kill, I would have buried Orion with a single glare. Listen, she fainted. She is not dying. Those words were all too familiar. I raked a hand through my hair as suppressed memories flooded my mind. Remember when I started, but he cut me off? Yes, I remember Seth. She is not Seth. I winced. You have seen her sick before, and she did not die. Why do you think it will be different this time? Then, we were not bonded. She did not make my heart skip beats, and her existence did not matter to me then the way it did now. Her body burned hot, with bloodstains around her nostrils as she lay in bed. She'll be fine. He patted my shoulders, and I desperately wanted to believe him. It was not just a fever. By nighttime, she was still unresponsive, and I saw the distress in the physician's eyes. My heart beat from my throat as I watched her with sweat dotting her forehead. I wiped her forehead just as Orion barged into the room after a single knock. Your Majesty! I turned to glare at him as he exclaimed. Your Majesty, I found a mage! He whisper-yelled. Only then did I notice the man beside him. "Can you believe it?" he asked with a grin. "After years of searching. You!" He tilted his head to the side with the corners of his lips raised. "I greet the Alpha King," he bowed, his back stiff as a rod. "Who are you?" My wolf snarled. "I am Cedric, a shadow mage." I held Amethyst tighter. "It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. We heard you are in search of a mage." His eyes sparkled as he raised his head. "Is the lady all right?" He took a step forward. Of course, the mages had come out on their own terms. I searched for a mage, but the last one I wanted was this creepy leech that hung around my mate. The way he looked at her even now had Styx wanting to hide her. "Stay away from my mate." Styx snarled the words coated with venom. The man, Cedric, paused. He tilted his head to the side as he frowned. "Unfortunately, I cannot." Those were the words he spoke, but I heard, "I will not." "Dad, you said no one knew what happened. She knows something." I gritted my teeth as Scarlet exclaimed, "They were talking about me." "What does she know?" Hawk asked in a level tone while his daughter panicked. "She knows we killed Prince Seth!" the girl whisper yelled, and the atmosphere turned to frost. "Who killed who?" Hawk asked, his gaze hardening. "I mean, isn't it—" "Be careful of the words you speak, Scar," he growled, sitting up straight. "Prince Seth unfortunately killed himself, or are you admitting to treason?" "Father," she exclaimed, her jaw slackening at the cold in her father's tone. "Why would you say that? I used to take pride in how much you resembled me, but this past month has shown that you are still a silly child." "The child I raised would not throw caution to the wind as you have done for the past month, throwing tantrums and weaving half-assed plots. The child I raised would not discuss treason so lightly." His nostrils flared as he gnashed his teeth. "If you continue to burden me by speaking and acting carelessly, I will wash my hands off your case without a backward glance." But, from the way she watched him, it was clear that Scarlet was unused to being scolded by her father. "But the Luna seat and all our plans—" She stuttered. "You promised me. You said I would have it all." She mumbled, her voice weak. "If you played your part right, you would have everything, but you let your emotions get the best of you," he snapped. "Did I not raise you better than to play silly tricks? I thought you were smart, but you are acting like a fool," he thundered. "Ha!" He clasped his hands together and bowed his head. "With all your beauty, you could not seduce one man. Just one man." I flinched at the venom dripping from his whispered words. "Do not speak as if I did nothing." Scarlet straightened her spine. "I did my part, and even more. Who was it that came up with the idea of making Killian king? Whose idea was it to frame Seth's death as suicide? Who won the royal fizz?" "Enough." I jumped out of my skin at that growl. "Yes, indeed, it was all your plan," he shouted, jumping out of his seat. "Now, are you ready to bear the responsibility of said plan?" She flinched, and he growled again. I thought so. "From now on, practice being like Amethyst. Like that lowly maid who—" Scarlet exploded, flying out of her seat like her father. "That lowly maid has everything I worked hard to give you." I watched in surprise as his fist struck her face. That lowly maid achieved in weeks. All you could not achieve in years, so she must be doing something right." He swerved, breathing harshly while Scarlet clutched her cheek, her head bowed. "You hit me." She spoke in a dazed whisper. "Father, you hit me. I will hit you again if you keep spewing nonsense." He wagged a threatening finger at her. "You were raised better than her, yet you are the one who gets caught acting like a cheap thing, spreading childish rumors and confronting her without a plan." He scrubbed a hand down his red face. His bloodshot eyes took me aback. "I have worked so hard. Years spent planning. Ha! That little bitch. How can she come from nowhere and ruin everything?" He fell back into his seat. "At least she is not smart enough to hide her cards. Just like that. Just like all women, really." "Father! You hit me!" Scarlet's bellow startled me awake. My eyes blinked open in Killian's office, but I was in bed. It took a while for me to realize I was not actually in his office, but somehow his office had moved to the bedroom. I watched in surprise and confusion as my mate skimmed through a stack of papers. Feeling eyes on him, he raised his head and a flurry of emotions flitted across his face. "You are awake." He dropped the stack of papers and pushed away from his desk. "How are you feeling?" "I shall call for the physician." He did not give me room to reply to his questions before he took hurried strides out of the room. When he returned, he had the royal physician hurrying after him. "Luna, you are awake." The man beamed at me, although his dark and puffed eyes showed his distress. "I will conduct a simple checkup." "Is the mage available?" Harold asked, handing me a cup of water. My heart stuttered. Had I been found out already? "He is right here." Cedric pushed into the room with a relaxed smile on his lips. Once he entered, I felt the air turn frigid. "Good morning, Amethyst." He smiled down at me and my heart stuttered again. I heard a low growl from Killian and Cedric's smile wavered. "How are you this morning?" His icy hand touched me and I flinched. Killian grabbed his hand. "Do not touch her." He spelt the words with a vibration in his tone that made me blink, but Cedric maintained his smile. "Sir, I am here to check on your mate. Please pull yourself together. Her welfare is much more important than your jealousy," Cedric admonished in a cool tone. "Jealousy," Killian muttered under his breath, his hand falling from Cedric's. "I am not jealous." You are a mage?" I asked Cedric, perplexed at what had happened while I was out. Did he not tell me he wanted to keep his identity a secret? "Yes, I am. The Alpha King has searched for a mage for a long time, and our coven has decided I am the best person to negotiate with him." His cool palm glided up to my bicep. "Did he reveal his identity because of me?" "You are taking your sweet time," Killian mumbled, a hint of a threat in his words. "Do you know what is wrong with her or not?" "Yes, indeed I do." Cedric smirked. "Her body is rejecting your mark." I choked, spraying water on the bed, and the whole room froze, and then everyone's eyes whipped to mine. I closed my eyes in apprehension and daydreamed about cutting out Cedric's tongue. I felt no malice from him, but why was he doing this? "Are you sure you are a mage? You seem more like a cone artist than a mage." Killian yanked his hand from my bicep. "Even your kind must know that true mates do not reject each other's marks." "Maybe you are not true mates then," Cedric said with a shrug, and my wolf pushed to the forefront so hard, so fast, I was almost unable to hold her back. She growled at Cedric, and he took a step back in surprise. "Who is this man to condemn a sacred bond between my mate and I?" Kalia snarled. "We are true mates," I growled out, my wolf's anger spilling into me. "Sir, please do not talk nonsense. My body is not rejecting the mark. I am simply stressed out from the preparations for the Luna ceremony." I diagnosed myself. Not for the first time, I wondered what ulterior motives Cedric had, and I reminded myself not to take anyone at face value. It was clear that he was trying to get between Killian and I. Unfortunately, I could not pinpoint what he would gain from ruining my relationship with Killian. Perhaps did Alpha Hawk send him? Amethyst, Cedric reached for me, but I flinched. The smirk on his lips fell, and his expression turned blank. "I will prepare a potion for you. Rest well." His words were cold, and his form was not solid as he walked out of the room, his shoulders stiff. "Since you are feeling better, I too must take my leave." Harold looked more than happy to leave Killian and me alone. Once the door closed behind Harold, Killian spoke. "I am not jealous," he muttered in a blank tone. "I am territorial. Jealousy implies you belong to someone else. You are mine, and I do not want anyone else touching you, looking at you. The way that bastard looks at you makes me want to pluck his eyes out. Let's forget about that." I set aside the cup of water I had been nursing. "There's something I have to tell you." The frustration and malice I saw in Alpha Hawk's eyes scared me. He had worked hard, and I knew he would not back down. No, he would rather take more extreme measures to guarantee the throne than back down. "About Prince Seth," I started, and Killian stopped breathing. I could see the rise and fall of his chest cease. He literally stopped breathing at the mention of his brother's name. You may not believe me. I would be surprised if he believed me. But I think, I know that his death was not suicide. His gaze sharpened. How do you know this? He folded his arms and leveled me with a blank yet stern look. You never met Seth. How would you know the circumstances of his death? Would I look silly if I told him that I had dreams of his dead brother? Would you believe me if I said I know this from a dream? He shook his head slowly, and I pressed my lips together, feeling my heart tighten. Well, I cleared my throat. I never expected you to believe since I have no proof, but it is something you must know. Believe it or not, Alpha Hawk killed him, himself and his daughter. They poisoned him with the help of the royal physician. Although I do not believe Seth killed himself, there is no single proof that suggests otherwise. He paused. And Alpha Hawk is not the type to be so reckless as to... He started, but I cut him off. Yes, Alpha Hawk did not seem the type reckless enough to commit treason considering how much he had to lose, but he did it. I had no tangible proof, and I may never find a way to get proof. But finding proof was not my duty. It was his. There is no proof, and they may have been so thorough that there will never be proof to find them guilty, but they did it. Killing Prince Seth was a way for them to kill two birds with one stone, get Scarlet the man she wants, and ensure they have a king that bows to their will. His gaze sharpened. They poisoned him and made the royal physician frame it as suicide. You are telling me they killed my brother to make me king? He did not sound angry. No, he almost sounded distraught. No, they killed him to make Scarlet your queen, and him a puppet, but there was no need to spell it out. They killed him, and if they are willing to go that far, they are prepared to go even further. The sides of his lips rose in a ghost of a ferocious smile. If they can kill Seth, they can kill me. He laughed, the sound colder than Cedric's touch. Alpha Hawk sat in the front row during my Luna ceremony. His eyes did not stray from me for even a second. My first impression of this man was that he was his daughter's fool and the queen's henchman, but now it was painfully obvious that he was neither of the two. His actions were calculated and his moves well hidden. If I did not have that dream of Prince Seth, who would have suspected him of killing the next king? He, who could not be the Alpha King. He who had everything to gain if said Prince Seth became Alpha King, and everything to lose if caught in the act of treason. He was the least likely person to kill Prince Seth, considering what he would gain from becoming the Alpha King's father-in-law. Yet, he did it. He was not his daughter's fool any more than he was the queen's henchman. Heck, these people were mere tools to him. Even his lack of control over his emotions may be well calculated to make people underestimate him. A way to hide his cards. He keeps staring at you. Killian massaged my hands and kissed the back of my palm. He knows you know something. He trailed kisses from my fingertips to my wrist. I will not make it easy for him. Those were his closing words yesterday regarding Alpha Hawk. We had not been out in public for so long that I forget how affectionate Killian could get. How falsely affectionate. The last time we were out together was for his coronation, and he had been so doting, so attentive, that he had the entire kingdom fooled. Now that we were mated, was there a need to still put up an act? The way he caressed my hand made me feel weird, and the way my heart picked up speed was unexplainable. I told him I would not be as easy to kill as the prince. I winced at how callous those words sounded. No wonder the queen almost attacked me. You are certain he did it? He asked, and I nodded. And you got this from a dream? He kissed my hand again as I nodded. There used to be a considerable distance between the king's throne and the queen's seat, but today, it seemed they had been pushed together. The balding man giving a long-winded speech finally finished, and it was time for my official coronation as the Luna Queen. As if sensing my anxiety, Killian squeezed my hand. The silver-haired priest that crowned Killian was present, and as he took center stage, his eyes scanned the crown. Where is Queen Cordelia? Everyone in the hall paused, and for the first time, we noticed the queen was indeed absent. Your Holiness, the queen begged off ill. She cannot attend the ceremony, and since the Alpha King already gave another woman her seat before the appropriate time, she felt there was no use dragging her tired and worn body to this ceremony, Scarlet spoke with pronounced disdain. By the Alpha King's verdict, all social gatherings today were either cancelled or postponed for the Luna ceremony, and that included Scarlet's birthday party. I hadn't expected her to show up, but she did, and she was spotting a subtle redness on her right cheek. Well, no one bothered to inform me about this. The priest pursed his lips. This is her last official duty as the queen. Surely, she can manage to crown the next Luna queen? He turned to Killian. Your Majesty, we must send for your mother. Killian clapped his hands twice, and a group of men materialized seemingly out of thin air. I would never get used to how well the king's guards camouflaged. Get my mother, he said to the one closest to him. Your Majesty, she is sick. Can you not spare the poor woman a chance to breathe? Must you? Scarlet began an impassioned speech. If she is too sick to walk, she can be carried out. Killian cut her off. We can wait for about 15 minutes for my beloved mother. Those were his words at surface level, but his tone clearly instructed the guards to drag the queen out in the next 15 minutes. Murmurs broke out in the hall. People looked from me to Killian, and they shook their heads. It was clear they expected me to say something, to do something about Killian's order, but I pretended not to know their thoughts. The priest motioned for me to kneel with Killian standing beside me, and I did as he started the oath. I recited the words after him, just as Killian had done, feeling myself tremble the longer the oath went on. I may have found myself in a situation that surpassed what I could handle. How did I go from a nobody called Carrot to the Luna Queen? I felt like I was filling shoes way too, but for me, it all started as a joke, not even a dream. And now I was about to take on the responsibility of a kingdom. What if I flopped? I felt like a fraud, and at a point I stopped speaking. The priest glared at me, and Killian tapped me. Sorry, please. Please repeat that. He tapped his feet as he repeated the oath. I swear before the goddess and her people to carry out my duties to the best of my abilities and ensure the peace and prosperity of the kingdom, the high priest repeated for me. The words were heavy on my lips as I repeated them. What did I know about peace and prosperity? What did I know about leadership? Until a few months ago, all I cared about was living day by day, surviving the hardships of Red Lake and carving out a corner for myself. Queen Cordelia, the crown, please. The priest turned to the queen, who had been dragged in halfway into my oath. My son already stripped me of the pride of royalty. I have become unfit to crown the next queen. The people in the audience talked amongst themselves, wondering what the delay was all about. Mother, Killian started with a threatening smile, keep in mind that you cannot outspite me. To welcome the Luna Queen into the royal family, a royal has to crown her. The priest gave Killian a pointed look. Please, make a quick decision. It is bad enough that you called me here without enough time to prepare. There are duties I must attend to today, so please let us not delay. He looked about, fed up with the drama between Killian and his mother. Give me the crown. The high priest did not waste time in fetching the crown and handing it over to the king. Everyone paused their chatter. Scarlet's smirk matched the queen's. Almost at once, the hall exploded in murmurs. Queen Cordelia has rejected her. Is it the king's duty to crown his mate? Is this the right protocol? Your Majesty, Alpha Hawk's voice resounded in the hall, his expression charged with fire. This is, by the absolute power of the Alpha King's throne, I crown you, Amethyst Caelestis I, the Queen of Wolves. A weak smatter of applause sounded in the room as he placed the crown on my head. It felt heavy, the weight of the crown itself and the duties it came with. May I take my leave now, Your Majesty? The high priest asked, and Killian waved him away, helping me to my feet. Killian guided me back to our seats as the queen made to exit the throne room with her head held high. 1 minute, Mother. She paused and turned to him with a haughty look. As you have rejected your duties as the Dowager Queen, it is only fair I strip you of them totally. The hall took a collective gasp. What do you mean? The queen sneered. As of today, Lady Cordelia ceases to be a member of the royal family. Killian smirked. When he said she could not outspite him, he meant that with all his heart. You have rejected the duties of a queen, so it is only fair to relieve you of the title that comes with those duties. You cannot do that." She paled. Hawk looked absolutely murderous. As if feeling the murderous intent spewing off him, Killian turned to Hawk. "I am the Alpha King. There is nothing I cannot do." In the blink of an eye, Hawk masked his expression. He went from looking murderous to flabbergasted. "Your Majesty, but to do this to your father's queen. Who do you think matters more to me? My father's queen or my queen?" He raised a challenging brow. "Since you cannot work as a royal, you should not be called royalty. Lady Cordelia, I am feeling generous, so I will give you 48 hours to vacate the palace." I realized, for the first time, how far Killian would go to ruin anyone that stood against him. "One by one, every pillar that stands against this throne will fall. I shall make sure of it." Those words were directed at Alpha Hawk, who had the temerity to look confused. Naturally, after my coronation came a parade through the capital, and then a lavish banquet. The streets were decorated with gold and purple, and it warmed my heart that so many people came out to watch the parade. They knew my name. They chanted my name on the streets, threw flowers at the carriage, and prayed for my longevity with smiles on their faces. To be known, to be appreciated, to be liked, these were things I gave up wanting in my years in Red Lake. I had focused more on survival than on anything else, but having this felt like a daydream, a high daydream. "Are you all right?" Killian took my hand from my thighs, and I turned to him. My heart felt so full at that moment. "You are crying." His words came out sounding aghast. "Are you hurt?" He turned my face this way and that. "Are you tired? Do you want to return home?" "No." I grinned through the tears blurring my vision as I pulled his hand from my face. "I am happy." His expression softened. It was rare for Killian to be so readable. His expression was almost always closed off, but these days, everything showed on his face. Perhaps I was starting to read him better with time. "I am glad you are happy." His thumb stroked my hand. "I want you to always be happy." "Thank you," I mumbled, with a light heart and a large grin. Those soft-spoken words were not words I ever expected to hear from him. That tone, the way his eyes softened, and that unfamiliar emotion I saw in his eyes, they all made me feel self-conscious. After the parade, I had to change out of the heavy dress used for the ceremony into a light one, and also take my medication. Killian took my hand and guided me to the banquet hall, and although I knew I had to maintain a dignified air, I could not help the giddiness that made my insides quiver as we were announced, Amethyst. That was my name now. There was a sharp contrast between the parade ground and the banquet hall. Even though everyone here wore polite smiles, this was a political setting. Although nothing could take the smile from my lips that day, I still missed the carefree wolves on the streets, waving and smiling without an ounce of malice. The crown on my head may be heavy, but I received such a warm welcome that I felt I finally had somewhere to call home. People that loved me even though they did not know me. My life had taken a different course in such a short time, and I was extremely grateful for that. In all honesty, it was due to the man beside me. I turned to Killian as he took his seat, his sleeve brushing my bare arm as he sat. "Do you want something?" he asked as he poured me a cup of wine. I remembered when I drank so much that I got drunk and thought I had been poisoned. My lips pulled up in a smile. "Thank you." He paused while pouring my drink. For choosing me. He grunted something in response as he turned away, overfilling my cup. I watched people dance with a light heart. There were gifts, blessings, and wonderful music. When the little girls from a nearby pack came to place flower wreaths on my head, I beamed like a loom and accepted the wreath as if it had as much importance as the crown. To me, it did. "You look so pretty, Luna," one of the little girls said, touching my cheek. "When I grow up, I want to be queen too." "Can I marry your son, Your Majesty?" the girl asked, and I grinned. "Of course. You can wear the crown next." At that point, I would have agreed to anything. I danced, I ate, I laughed. Even the fever rising inside me did not deter me from having the time of my life as people celebrated with me. The banquet lasted till dawn, but as evening neared, Killian took my hand, and I knew it was time to leave. I did not want to leave. This was my party. The first and probably the last time for me to be celebrated in my life, and I let Killian know just how I felt. "Do not forget you are still unwell," he coaxed me. "You have to rest because from tomorrow you have your work cut out for you." My lips pressed together in a pout before I knew it, and he smiled. "We will throw a party every year, every month if you wish. I will celebrate you every day of your life if you so demand. This may be the first, but on my honor, it will not be the last." I felt so warm inside as I followed him back to our quarters. My steps were light and my body free. Orion followed behind us, taking the crowns of both the king and queen with him. The place was filled with unfamiliar faces as we left, but they all wore matching smiles that I returned as graciously as possible. All around the kingdom, people would be drinking and celebrating, and it would be because of me. That night, I had a sweet, dreamless sleep, and when I woke the following day, the fever inside me had risen, but I still felt light. Cedric already sent a potion, and when I took it, I felt relaxed. I woke up with a smile on my lips and went about my day without losing my smile. Although I was slammed with a ton of work after the coronation, from managing the palace to even the king's pack, which I also became a member of, my smile did not fade. As the Luna Queen, I had to learn on the job. There were tutors to help me since the Dowager Queen already left, but I did not mind. I felt useful, wanted, important. So, even when I did not understand half of the things I went through, I went to Orion with a smile on my face and asked for help. It would have been strange for the smile on my lips not to fall. There must have been an unwritten rule in the stars that I could not be happy for long. So after prancing around with a smile on my lips for a few days, the time came to open the Queen's doors to those seeking an audience, and my first guests were the last people I wanted to see in this planet. As the proclaimed mother of the kingdom, I had to meet with my people and listen to their troubles, but Bella and Grace could die with their burdens for all I cared. Bella, Luna, Grace. I entered the room with stiff shoulders, the smile on my lips dropping. Watching these people from my past replaced the joy in me with a familiar cold emptiness. "We greet the Luna Queen." They greeted me, but the words coming from their lips sounded like mockery. "What do you want?" I saw no point in beating around the bush. What a rude way to greet the people who raised you. Luna Grace was the first to speak. She had lost weight. Her flamboyant dress hung on her frame, and it looked unflattering. Her usual accessories were missing, and her skin had lost most of its color and firmness. Dark circles decorated the area around her eyes, and her lips were chapped. "Grace, you have 20 minutes, but I can make it 5 if you do, not get right to the point." Seeing them made me feel empty, but they no longer had the power to harass me. Noah was gone, and I was now the Luna Queen. There was little to nothing these people could do to me. "You know we are here concerning Noah," Bella inputted. She too looked worn, tired, aged even. "What happened to Noah, Carrot?" "Why are you asking me this? Noah was dead, and as members of his pack bonded to him, they must have felt it when he took his last breath, and the bond between him and his pack severed." "You are his mate, are you not?" Grace hissed at me, her eyes red. "Where is my son?" "Except the Alpha King is your son. There is no way I am your son's mate," I answered with a straight face and a burning throat. You... Grace breathed harshly, squeezing her hands into fists. "Stop lying," Bella interjected. "I know you are his mate, and now we cannot find him even though he is dead, and you are masquerading as the king's mate. You..." "Bella," I called her name with a drawl, adjusting myself in my seat. "You are not speaking to Carrot. No, you are addressing the Luna Queen. I need you to speak with sense and clarity, or else you may find yourself behind bars for an insult against the monarchy. You lousy." Grace's eyes almost bulged out of their sockets. Tears streamed down her face. If it was someone else, I would be moved, but I never sympathized with my oppressors. "Bella, you are Noah's mate, or should I say were? If anything has happened to him, you should be able to locate him." She flinched, but I did not relent. "What happens to your mate is none of my concern. If you want to find a missing person, you should first check with your pack enforcers, not the Queen." "Bella!" Grace jumped to her feet. "I told you this would be a waste of time, but you insisted." You should not expect ungrateful rats to cooperate when they have tasted power. I will deal with this how I see fit. She turned to me with a glare that sent shivers down my spine. I told my mate to send your whore of a mother away, but he insisted on being a good man. She hissed at me. Since she could not bully me as she pleased, she resorted to cutting me with words that were sure to hurt me. You mother, the slut she was sleeping with another woman's mate, she sneered down at me. It is no wonder the bastard king chose you. You both were born from women who could not get their own men. Bastards, the lot of you. She left the room screaming and cursing while I sank into my seat, allowing myself to take a deep breath. Fatigue quickly filled the emptiness inside me as they left. Red Lake Pack, how long will you continue to torment me? They left, but they did not take the stench of trouble with them, so for the rest of the day, I felt restless. After them, there were 6 more women to meet. They all came to establish friendly relations with me to benefit their packs, so they came bearing gifts. After that, I could catch a break. The meeting with Bella and Grace still had me rattled, but I forced myself to be calm. They could not harm me anymore. Sabrina brought my medication for the afternoon, and she came with her usual gossip. There were 2 women. I heard Miss Scarlet talking about them. They said they came from your former pack. Alpha Hawk has given them a place to stay in his mansion in the capital. I got even more restless. I needed to get out. Despite the medication I just took, the fever inside me rose to a scorching high. Why did Bella and Grace suddenly come here? I had cast them to the back of my mind and buried their existence. But now they came all the way to the capital, and I did not need a sorceress to tell me Alpha Hawk would find a way to use them. How could Noah still hunt me from the grave? My lady? Sabrina tapped my shoulder when I went as still as a sculpture. In an instant, I was out of my seat, startling her. I am going for a run. I all but ran to the woods close to the palace. After peeling off my clothes with shaky hands, I shifted into my wolf form, and almost immediately I felt better. It's so good to be free. Killian sighed as I shifted, stretching out her body. We should do this more often. I agreed with my wolf. The minute I shifted into my wolf form, the fever inside me died. The world became clearer and more beautiful. In my wolf form, I felt like an entirely different person. And as Killian broke into a run, my worries faded to the back of my mind as the wind tickled our fur. In my wolf form, Bella and Grace did not matter. The workload of being a queen did not exist, and the anxiety about the future fell away. There was just me and the earth around me. The air is so fresh, so clean, Killian exclaimed in excitement. I felt myself smile. My wolf was mostly reserved, and it was refreshing to see her let loose like this. It had been so long since I shifted and let her run that I felt a bit guilty. You should feel guilty, she snorted, confining me to a human body for so long. We will come out here more often, I promised. Yes, we should come out more often. We can invite Styx. He is cooped up in that office all day. Alas, she could not string 2 sentences together without mentioning her mate. I am sure it drives him crazy. He is the Alpha King, I reminded my wolf. I am sure he feels honored to serve his kingdom. My wolf snorted. Styx is a warrior wolf. He feels more at ease on a battleground. I kept my mouth shut after that. Killian seemed to know more about our mate than I did, and it made something inside me prick. Are you jealous of me right now? My wolf exclaimed. No! Why would I be? Was this what jealousy felt like? It made no sense for me to be jealous of my wolf because she was closer to our mate. If you accepted a bit of his affection, you 2 would be closer, she mumbled. And you cannot be jealous of me. It's weird. We are the same. Killian. He does not have much affection to give, I answered almost on reflex. Are you sure? My wolf challenged. If you opened your eyes and actually took a good look at him, you would see he is literally pouring all his affection on us. I never took Killian seriously when it came to Killian because, from the start, she had been so enamored with Killian who could do no wrong in her sight. Killian told me he had no affection to give. The throne was of the utmost importance to him. Shut up, my wolf cut me off. I do not want to listen to those useless thoughts. You are so stubborn it drives me crazy, she snarled, and I blinked. Let us change the subject. She seemed to take a deep breath. Grace will be a problem. I didn't need telling. Noah turned out the way he did because of his mother. Luna Grace was so self-absorbed, so self-centered, that she considered everything and everyone as existing for her benefit. She may never have gone out of her way to plot evil as her son did, but she certainly laid the foundation for his selfish character. How do you plan on handling them? I had no plan yet. Are you going to tell Killian? Somehow, I knew he already knew. If a woman like Grace wants to take an active role in doing evil, she would be way worse than Scarlet, my wolf muttered. The way she looked at us still makes me unease. The disdain in her eyes as she insulted me and my mother, as if I was still the same nameless girl who had the misfortune of being born on her packland. Should I just have her imprisoned for insulting the monarchy? She not only insulted me, but she also insulted my mate. That part made Killian growl. And what she said about my mother. Those words haunted me. I never met my mother, and I had worked hard to give her excuses for abandoning me, telling myself she must have had her reason. I only allowed myself a small room to hate her. But what if she was the type that went around with different men? What if... Was it really true that my father had a family which my mother intruded on? For all we know, she could have said those spiteful words to anger you, Killian said, but even she sounded doubtful. If it was true, don't you think she would have insulted you with those words sooner rather than later? Luna Grace was the type that hurled insults at others, with a perfect smile on her face. If it was true, she would not have held herself back for so long. I would have since been branded the daughter of a philandering homewrecker. Yet, somehow I did not think she lied. She looked me dead in the eye and told me my mother went after someone's mate. She even insulted the king. The longer I thought on the matter, the more frustrated I got, but shouts and curses pulled me from my reverie. It seemed people were fighting at the entrance to the palace. On instincts, I shifted and rushed into my clothes, zipping up haphazardly as I exited the forest and hastened to the front of the palace where I met a surprising scene. "What are you doing?" "Seize her immediately." It was Alpha Hawk shouting at the palace guards who moved at his command. They went at a figure dressed in black, and to my amazement, the 5 guards that went at the other person all fell in no time. My mouth fell open at how fast the person brought down our guards. I was about to intervene when the person started to cuss in loud voices. Such vulgar words spilling out of a mouth made me take a step back, but what was more surprising was how tiny and high-pitched the voice was. "Useless piss-drinking shits! I should fuck up your face and cut off your cocks and turn them into barbecue for this insult. The palace guards receiving orders from an ugly bitch-ass punk, huh? Is this the fucking palace or is this dark moon? Ugly-ass motherfuckers." It continued to rain insults as the woman kicked the palace guards, wagged her fingers at them, and stomped on them. The sudden vulgarity and venom had me pausing in amazement as I watched the woman from a safe distance. She turned as she beat up the guards, and our eyes met. Oh dear, I have shown something unsightly to Her Majesty. She withdrew in an instant, patting down her clothes and bowing. Alpha Hawk turned to me with his mouth agape as I forced my feet to take me closer to the woman, causing a ruckus right in front of the main palace. You have beat up the palace guards. In front of the palace. That was a crime. These useless punks. These less-than gentlemen did not let this poor woman pass despite me identifying myself. I looked around for a poor woman who the guards harassed. But asides me and the maids huddled at the side who had come out to watch, she was the only other woman here. These rascals, these disgraces for guards, dared to act upon an order that did not come from the king's mouth. She sneered at them. I see. I did not see at all. Both confusion and my returning fever did not permit me to see. Black dots spotted my vision, and I did not understand how to act in such a situation. None of my tutors prepared me for facing a woman that beat up the palace's guards while trying to force her way into the main palace. Your Majesty, I am Jacqueline Bale, but you can call me Jack. I see. I saw the dark tattoos covering her neck, and then I could not see any more. She's waking. She's waking, someone shouted before my eyes even opened. Shut up. I recognized the cold voice of my mate. Even before I opened my eyes, I felt his warmth next to mine, and I liked how secure that made me feel. Amethyst? He whispered my name, his hand clutching mine. Open your eyes. I opened my eyes. Water, I croaked through a patched throat. Killian helped me sit up, and Sabrina gave me a cup of water as Cedric poured a now familiar brown liquid into a cup. Ella stood at the side watching with an expressionless face, and Killian watched me with an odd intensity. You are not getting better, he said, his words sounding accusatory. I am fine, I muttered, taking a sip of water. Yes, indeed, you are so fine that you fainted, he pursed his lips. The workload must be too much for you. It is not the workload, Cedric chimed in as I insisted again that I was fine. I can keep making these potions for you, and you can keep fainting. It is not the stress. You are rejecting. Ah, my body itches, I exclaimed to stop Cedric from sprouting more nonsense. My wolf told me the same thing, but I refused to admit or believe it. Why would I be rejecting my mate's mark? Even if I was a hybrid, I was also a wolf, and I had a predestined bond with Killian. It was simply impossible that any part of me would reject it. What? Is that another sign? Perhaps we should find... Killian went rigid. No, I waved a hand. I had spoken without thought. I need to wash off the sand on my body. It was a poorly thought out lie, but it was one no one would question. Right, a bath. Killian turned to Ella. Prepare her bath. He looked reluctant to leave, and for a split second, I had the sinking feeling he would wait around and watch me wash up. Thankfully, he did not. I will ask Orion to adjust your schedule so you can rest for a while. He leaned over and captured my lips in a slow kiss that set fire to my guts. Thank you. He smirked as he straightened and then turned to Cedric with a glare. Do you plan to watch her bathe? The mage averted his eyes and left the room wordlessly. I will ask them to send your dinner up, Killian said as he placed a lingering kiss on my cheek. With everyone out of the room, I leaned back and groaned. Very rarely did I avoid my problems like this, but what was I supposed to do about rejecting my mate's mark? I would ask Cedric, but he was currently under strict surveillance, and the way he acted these days made me suspicious of him. Unfortunately, I did not have my solitude for long. Sabrina and Ella returned with towels and soap and hot water for my bath. Sabrina, as usual, chatted non-stop, this time about Jacqueline. She is quite notorious. She turned up her nose. With all the hideous designs on her body, she is nearing 30 but has not found her mate, and no man is willing to choose a woman who beats up men for fun as his mate. Jacqueline Bale. If my memory serves me well, the name Bale was an important one in the kingdom. They were merchants, rich merchants, and part of the new alphas too. You know, the lady is quite close to His Majesty, Sabrina said in a quiet voice. Years ago, people speculated that they would choose each other. Sabrina, can you get the peach scent that Her Majesty likes? Ella cut into her gossip. What? The other girl looked taken aback. It was rare for Ella to speak while serving me, and even rarer for her to cut into Sabrina's gossip. What scent? I don't know any. The one in the yellow bottle, Ella answered. I watched as Sabrina frowned, but she nodded as she left. You should not trust her, Ella muttered in a tone so quiet I almost did not hear her. Who? I may not trust a woman who could beat up people with such reckless abandon, but I was not about to believe that she would be a threat to my relationship because of baseless rumors. Sabrina, she muttered. Oh, what do you mean? It is not my place to say this, but you should not trust her. Ella massaged my scalp as she spoke. Go on, I encouraged when silence descended in the bathroom. You may not have noticed, but she is quite fickle. It was not a trait I had not already noticed. Even the love she has for her family can change. I am not calling her a bad person, but she is the type that sits on the fence, and whoever can guarantee her the most gets her loyalty. As I said, she is fickle, so that loyalty changes with time. I knew that, and it was the reason I chose her. She was only loyal to me because she saw me as having more advantage to her than Scarlet. My warmth towards Sabrina faded already, and I now regarded her as a business partner. If I wanted something she could get me, then she would get it, and vice versa. For example, you may buy her loyalty by getting her brother out of prison, but then another person can give her a large sum of money, and she would be quick to switch sides. It was such a specific example. My instincts had started to reject Sabrina recently, and sometimes I wondered if she was not playing against me rather than with me, but to hear that she had been bought over with money. Unlike the first time I learnt she was a spy, this time I did not feel anything. The only thing I thought about was finding her replacement. And you? Can your loyalty be bought? I asked Ella. She paused for a millisecond before continuing. Ella had always been a quiet girl, but recently she became even quieter, almost as if weighed down. I have a prior commitment, so I cannot be your eye. She declined my offer without space for negotiation. What prior commitment? I am sorry, but that is between the Alpha King and me. Killian, huh? If I may suggest someone who would be of help, I would say Mary. Mary, the president of Scarlet's fan club? I snorted in disbelief. She hated me as a maid, and she hated me more for stealing her mistress's position. Yes, Ella nodded. She will resist strongly as she is loyal to Miss Scarlet, but at the end of the day, we are all maids who want one thing or another outside of our means, so there is none of us beyond temptation. If I lived like that as a maid, would my life have been easier? All I did was glare at my superiors and offer my loyalty to no one, not even my alpha. For Mary, who has been put down all her life by her former mistress, what she wants is power, or the illusion of it. Give her people she can boss around and she will bow at your feet, Ella suggested. And what if someone gives her a higher position? I asked. If Sabrina could be bought, Mary, who hated the air I breathed, was more likely to betray me. Mary is too headstrong to be won over. You may not even succeed in getting her on your side, but you are the Luna Queen, she paused. You can guarantee her more power, and she will be more beneficial to you since Miss Scarlet trusts her. I'm back. Sabrina barged in with a bottle labeled citrus. I spent the night thinking about Ella's words. Mary may not be a good choice, but I had to replace Sabrina as soon as possible. She brought me no useful information, and even I noticed her behavior was starting to cross the line. What are you thinking about so deeply? Killian asked, pulling me to his chest. His body was warm, and the way we fit, it was clear that we were made for each other. Is it Jack? It was not, but he made me remember Sabrina's words. Are you too close? I asked, secretly pushing closer to him. Despite the heat inside me, his body heat soothed me rather than irritated me. We have fought quite a number of wars together. I was not surprised that the woman who could fall the palace guards was a warrior. I met her on the battleground, and I left her there. Jack is not someone that lets herself get close to people. I wanted to comment that he was like that too, but I kept my mouth close. In a sense, I too was guilty of keeping people at a distance, but who would blame me? The people I pulled close were always the wrong sort. Look at Sabrina. I heard you were going to choose her as your mate. He laughed out loud at that. Once I joked about choosing her to get out of being with Scarlet, and she threatened me with regicide. He laughed again, pulling me closer. Are you jealous? I almost snorted, but he quickly continued as if he did not want to hear the answer. I have never had eyes for any woman but you. I did not doubt him. The next day, I went looking for Cedric. There was no reason for me to reject a mate bond, so I had to get to the root of this strange illness. Welcome, Your Majesty, the old woman greeted me. Please, call me Amethyst. As you wish. She grinned, showing off pearly white teeth. Please, come inside. The others are waiting. I entered the brightly lit room and met at least 20 pairs of eyes eagerly watching the door. They all wore matching dazed looks, with one woman going as far as letting her jaw drop and clutching her chest. This is not Victoria? A slender, gray-haired woman was the first to break the silence. Cedric's grandmother grinned beside me. I told you they looked alike, she spoke, standing taller. No, they do not look alike, another woman said. They are the same. Come, dear. Let us check if you are a reincarnation of your mother. She waved me over, but I did not move. When I found Cedric the previous day, he told me the only way to help me was for me to meet his grandmother. As she would not enter the royal palace, I had to go to her. For this, I snuck out of the palace. It was not difficult since Cedric had shadow magic, but I did not know what I would meet upon my return. My only hope was that no one noticed I was not sleeping as I claimed I wanted to do before I left. "How can she be a reincarnation of a living person?" another woman said, and my gaze cut to her. She was holding a little girl who poked and prodded her cheeks. "My mother?" I asked, and she cleared her throat. "Aunt Leah, we have not confirmed anything yet," Cedric cut in with a warm yet cold tone. "No, tell me, is my mother still alive?" I rushed to ask. Suddenly, no one would look at me anymore. "Take a seat first. Why not have a cold drink? Here." The old woman snapped a finger, and I heard a screeching sound, like wood on wood, and in an instant, a table with a pitcher and cup of water ground to a halt in front of me as I took a seat. "WW. What?" I fought down a scream at the sudden appearance of a stool in front of me. "You frightened her?" Cedric murmured, taking a seat beside me. Oh, sorry," the old woman said, her mismatched eyes widening. I swallowed, crossing my legs. My heart beat faster than usual, and my wolf was on alert. This whole room smelt. No, it reeked of magic. I did not know magic would have a smell, but it did. It also had a rough feel on my skin, and even a heavy taste on my tongue when I opened my mouth. "My mother," I began. Asides from my body rejecting my mate's mark, the reason I came here was that I needed to hear about my mother. She was such a vital part of my life, yet I never met her. These were her people, her sisters as they called themselves, and they had known her. "Will you not eat first?" the old lady asked. "We prepared something delicious for you." She was about to snap her fingers again, but she paused. "Let me—" She half rose from her seat, but I stopped her. "No, there is no need for that. I cannot eat now." Too anxious, I confessed. "Oh, there is no need to be anxious. You are our daughter. Why should Victoria's daughter be uneasy with her family?" Different words to reassure me poured out, but they only succeeded in making me more anxious, as everyone tried to be heard over the others. "They are anxious, too," Cedric leaned over to whisper into my ear. "Everyone has wanted to meet you since grandmother mentioned you." Ah, that made me 3 times more anxious. "Aunts," Cedric cut into the chatter that was supposed to make me feel at home with them. "She is neither hungry nor thirsty, but she would love to hear stories about her mother. You are the only links she has to her." The room finally quietened. "I will get the photo album." He trudged out of the room, leaving me with the strangers staring at me. Was it a witch's thing to stare so intently? "Sister Victoria," the woman called Leah broke the silence. "Ahem, your mother was the leader in our coven before Mother Crystal took over after. She left." Cedric returned in time with a dusty leather-bound book. On the very first page was a picture of the woman who I got my lips and nose from, my mother. She was born and raised here, as her parents were part of this coven. Her mother made the strongest potions, and her father had the blessing of a water spirit. I flipped through the book, and tears filled my eyes. There she was as a child, cradled in the arms of her parents with a huge smile on her face. She manifested a lot of abilities as a child, so it was not a surprise when we discovered she was a spirit mage. There were images of her with many people, and she always had a huge smile on her face. As the most powerful of us all, we chose her as our leader, and for 5 years, we were the most talked about coven with a coveted spirit mage. So many pictures of her smiling, on the streets, in front of a group of children, in a room over a pot. She was always smiling. One day, she went out and came back drenched and laughing. She told us she found a man she loved. My mother was a happy and carefree person, if these images were to be believed. She would often go out to meet this man in the afternoons, and she always came back laughing. It was true that she was in love, but she never allowed us to meet this man. We are sisters. We do not hide from each other. It is our place to cover our weaknesses, so it was a bit suspicious that she hid a man she claimed to love. Someone else picked up the story at intervals as all 20-something of the women spoke. Then one day, she returned with tears in her eyes. Victoria never cried. She was always laughing in these pictures, and if I should take a guess, it would be my father that made her cry. Something went wrong, and she would not tell us. They pursed their lips. Naturally, we had to investigate the matter. The man, he was a werewolf. Some of the women shook their heads. There are covens that hunt down hybrids, so, of course, we were wary. If they were to ever procreate, the witch and her child would be hunted. All with magic stick to themselves, else we would be exploited as we were in Great War. Mingling with others goes against our unspoken pact. Soon, Victoria started to lose control of her magic. It was how we found out she was pregnant. They all paused, and for some reason, I felt guilty. A hybrid baby would ruin her life, we were sure of it. But what could we do if not protect our sister? She did not want our protection. No, she decided, and her decision did not include us. One morning we woke up and there was a note. It was the last we heard of our sister. The grandma beside me had her head bowed. "We are sorry we failed our sister. We are sorry we failed you." They were apologizing to me. No, my tears may have ruined a few pages of the book, but I could not raise my head. Luna Grace said she was a promiscuous woman who went after another woman's mate, but my mother in these pictures looked so innocent and carefree, and her sisters. Did she hide him from them because he had a family, or was it because he was a werewolf who she should not have been seeing? "You are ill," one of the women exclaimed when I felt a now familiar dizziness. Yes, it is why she came. The grandma sprang to her feet like an agile cat and grabbed my hand. "Come into the inner room. Soleil and I will examine you." Soleil was a tall, wiry woman with a sharp, angular face. They held my hands, Soleil and the grandma, as they led me into a dimly lit room. "Please lay down. Soleil is a healer, so she can help." I nodded at the calm and coaxing words as I stretched out on the thin, hard bed. One by one, the other women crowded into the room as Soleil touched my bare arms. "It is okay if the darkness takes you for a while," she whispered. "Sometimes it is a long process, getting to the root of the illness." She gave me a warm smile that I could not help but return. "I can put you to sleep if you want." A woman jumped forward. "Hey, I too can put you to sleep." Another woman came forward. Then it became a battle of who I wanted to put me to sleep. I did not need any magic to put me to sleep. Soleil's cool and soothing touch did the trick, and then I dreamt of Killian. You are telling me, Ella, where is my mate?" He looked ready to shift, ready to tear a head clean off. Your Majesty, she said she would be asleep, so... He strode past her and left the office, his movements stiff and jerky. It was a short sleep, and the dream ended there. I regained consciousness and heard whispers around me. "Cedric, I can feel shadow magic in her." Soleil's cool voice sounded accusatory. "I may have done a thing or two. You did not make her ill, did you?" The grandma sounded shocked. "It's just magic that causes a small fever," he defended. "You told me to bring her home, and except you wanted me to kidnap her. Then I had to come up with a plan. You fool!" I heard a smack. "How could you do that to Victoria's daughter?" "But it's the only thing I could think of." I heard another smack, then like 10 more. "I did it for the good of the coven. How can we get her to stay?" "Shh! She's waking." I heard yet another smack as I opened my eyes. "If you kill me," I cleared my throat as my voice came out hoarse. "If you kill me, even the best cloaking magic, or whatever you call it, will not save you from my mate." "Oh dear, there has been a misunderstanding." Crystal rushed to my side, but I flinched when she reached out to touch me. "Don't touch me." I pushed out of the bed. What was I thinking, coming here alone? Even if I wanted to keep my hybridity a secret, I could have come up with a lie, told Killian something, anything to let him know where I was. I entered unknown territory like a damn fool, and I only had myself to blame. Not Cedric, who was making me sick, or the women gathered around me. Myself for being a fool. I should have suspected this bastard. Why was I not suspicious enough? I followed everyone like an idiot without thinking of the possibility of this being a trap. "Child, it was not my intention to make you sick," Crystal said. "This is a misunderstanding, and I am sure Cedric has a good explanation. I am sure." She glared at him. "A good explanation." I turned to the man who barged into my bedroom after spying on me throughout the day, a man who lied to my face and tried to ruin my relationship with my mate. "Did Alpha Hawk send you?" I sneered, looking for a possible exit. All the women were crowded around the room, blocking the only door. "We do not work with werewolves," Cedric replied with a sneer, as if the thought of working for Hawk horrified him. "Amethyst, I may have gone about it the wrong way, but this is your home. These are your people. Are you going to force me to live here?" If he talked long enough, I could figure out his motive. Why did he approach me? What did they want from me? "We cannot force you to stay." That sounded too much like a lie to me. They had magic, and they outnumbered me. They could do with me as they pleased, and I had very few resources to fight back. "Killian." I called for my wolf, who quietly observed the situation. "There is a window behind," she murmured. "Shift as you go. I will take it from there." My wolf may not be an alpha wolf, but I trusted her. She was, after all, a white wolf. "Dear, you must not jump from the window." One of the women rushed to block the window. "Allow us to explain." "There is no explanation. You tried to kill me." "There was only one window, and I had to get out of this place." "No way, I did not try to kill you." Cedric pinched the bridge of his nose. "It was just simple magic that causes a fever. Things got worse because of stress. I am sorry I took it so far, but why would I want to kill you? We are family. I am not a part of your coven," I shouted at him. He lured me in under the guise of a family, people that knew my mother and called her sister. I was stupid and desperate enough to entertain a strange man who made me sick and offered an antidote. "Who knows what you did to drive my mother away?" I pointed an accusing finger at a random woman. "Did you tell her to kill her baby? You all are despicable. Let me go." My heart raced, but the women did not budge. "All of you, leave," Mother Crystal said, her tone leveled but forceful. "But Mother," the other women complained, "I will handle this." One by one, the women left the room, leaving me with the old woman. Cedric was the last to exit the room, and he looked at me as if he did not understand, as if he did not expect me to have such a reaction to being deceived. I made for the door when he left. The old woman came to stand before the door. For a second, I saw red. On reflex, I reached for her, but she moved faster than humanly possible. "My magic is to move things," she explained as I reeled from how fast she moved. "We have gotten off on the wrong foot, but after spending 20 years searching for you, I don't feel it is right to let this simple misunderstanding fester. Let me go," I enunciated each word. The urge to curse and act like Jacqueline Bale overwhelmed me, but I did not have a lot of energy. Did they weaken me with the pretext of healing me? "You have heard about your mother. Are you not a bit curious another your father?" I paused, but shook my head. "Fool me once." "He is currently in the capital," she murmured. "Your father, that is." "How do you know him?" I demanded, feeling myself cave. All this could be a lie, a trap to keep me and use me for goddess knew what. I should not listen to what they had to say. But my parents, they dangled information about my ancestry over my head, like a piece of bread and like a starved dog. I could not help but pant after them. "First, let me apologize for Cedric. There is no excuse for what he has done, but I need you to know that indeed, I asked him to bring you here." I glared at the woman. "There is no point in denying that it would be best for you to return to us. We are your family, and we can only protect you when you are close to us." "I am not Victoria." We bore a striking resemblance and had the same type of magic, but though she was my mother, I never met her. She was a stranger to me. "I cannot return to a place I was never a part of." The woman flinched, her mismatched eyes quivering. "Yes, you are right." She sighed, taking a seat on the hard bed. "You look so much like her that this old woman may be getting confused. You are not Victoria, but you are Victoria's girl, our daughter. You do not know why my mother left. For all you know, she hated you all and never wanted to see your faces again. It was a low blow, but it was a thought that once it took root in my mind, could not be dislodged. My mother may have hated me too for ruining her life. Maybe that's why she left me to rot in Red Lake. She left to protect you. How would you know? Because of us all, I knew Victoria the best. I raised her from her teen years until she became the coven's leader, and I was the first she came to, when she met a werewolf. She sounded bitter as she spoke. I tried to discourage her back then. I really did my best, but she was so headstrong, and once she set her mind on something, it was impossible for her to let it go. It was the same when she told me she was leaving. You know why she left. I did not mean it, but my tone sounded accusatory. But you all said she only left a note. The night before she left, we had a discussion. Again, I tried to convince her to stay, but she already made up her mind. A hybrid is not safe amongst witches, so she wanted to give you a pack, a family like she had. She pursed her lips. She must have suffered to find one as far away from your father as possible. She shook her head and I frowned. What was wrong with my father? He is like the people that made us go into hiding. She scrunched up her nose like a person who just perceived a foul odor. Didn't they go into hiding because they were being exploited? A person who exploits others for his benefit, the type who does not mind sacrificing everyone around him as long as he achieves his goal. And what was his goal? My father sounded like an awful person, and just thinking about him made my skin crawl. Who knows? She shrugged. I never spoke to him, but he was an important man, so he had important things to do. And your mother. She wanted to help him achieve all those important things, so she revealed her powers to him. Cold slithered down my spine. Did this man have a family? She pursed her lips for the 100th time. Her expression gave me the answer. It was the first day I saw Victoria cry, the day she met him with his mate and daughter. She let out a cold and cynical laugh. She had been so foolish, how could she? She trusted him. All those ramblings went on for a while, and with time, I saw her magic begin to act out. That was when the sisters decided to intervene, but it was too late. There was a baby on the way, and Victoria was too useful to the man for him to let her go. She feared for her child, who would no doubt be hunted for hybridity, and who could not be protected or loved by a man who had deceived her. Did she? Did she like carrots? I asked, and she scoffed. I cannot say she was particular about her vegetables. Why do you ask? My other pack, they called me Carrot. They say it was what my mother called me. I felt embarrassed to mention that name, a name I wanted to be erased from my history. Oh, yes, she used to call you Little Carrot while pregnant. She thought you would have red hair like your father. Wait, did they not give you a name? She stiffened as she asked. It does not matter. I named myself already. This man, my father, what was his name? Maybe I could find him. Sebastian? No, I think he was called Sylvester. Again, I am terribly sorry. Cedric continued to apologize throughout the ride back to the palace. I ignored him. He was callous enough to make me sick, and worsen my sicken with a fake potion which I thanked him for. He deceived me, and he would not be apologizing if I never found out. Rather than dwell on his betrayal, I thought of my parents. My father deceived my mother into a relationship and proceeded to exploit her. Victoria and Sylvester. For the first time in my life, my parents had names, and I even had a face to my mother. It was a bitter, sweet moment for me. Now, more than ever, I wished to meet my mother. Was she still out there? What was she doing? Would I ever meet her? And my father, should I look for him? Considering how he had been described, he did not seem like a good person. Still, he is your father, my wolf said. If we can find him, we should. I would admit that I was eager to find him, but with just a name, how likely was I to find him in our large capital? We should ask Killian, Kalea suggested. Everything with her always circled back to her mate. Although I pretended to be calm, my heart raced and I had to wipe my sweaty palms every few minutes. Killian already discovered I was not sleeping like I pretended to be, so what would I tell him? We are here. Cedric cut into my thoughts as a cold sense of foreboding washed over me. We took an inconspicuous carriage and parked a distance from the palace so I could sneak back in, but we were surrounded before the coachman brought the horses to a stop. It looks like you were missed. I peeked through the curtains of the carriage and winced as I met Orion's eyes. Is there a problem? Cedric said as he poked his head through the door. I swallowed down a gasp as he was wrenched out of the carriage with such force he almost slammed into the person below. He has magic, so shackle him with silver trice, Orion shouted. My heart stopped, and then started back up with hard pounding. Take him to his majesty. There was no longer a means of escape for me as Orion entered the carriage. Get this thing moving. He rapped on the side of the carriage, and the coachman swung into action. Good evening, Your Majesty. He greeted me without an expression on his face. The last time we were on the same carriage, you snuck in. I gave a faint chuckle that sounded strained even to my ears. You do have a knack for sneaking about, I will give you that. Is he angry? I ignored the jab. No, he shook his head. The lump in the throat loosened a bit, but he continued. Angry is too mild a word. We have searched for you for hours. He raked a hand through his hair. I am sorry. It is rude of me to scold you. What should I do? Even as I asked, I knew the answer already. You should tell the truth, my wolf and Orion said at the same time. I have known Killian for close to a decade, and I have never seen him like this before. You scared him. He didn't get the chance to finish his words as we arrived at the palace. It would not be an exaggeration to say the whole palace had come out to watch. It was as if a criminal was being dragged to the town square for judgment. I felt like a criminal as Orion helped me out of the carriage. My eyes scanned the crowd, and I saw Scarlet with a now familiar sneer on her lips, Sabrina and Ella with white faces and stiff shoulders. Thankfully, Killian was not amongst the crowd. He is waiting for you in your quarters, Orion whispered, as if reading my thoughts. It's best to come clean to avoid any misunderstandings that will certainly lead to unfortunate circumstances for your friend. I paused as my hand reached for the doorknob. My mate was inside the room. I could scent him. I could also hear his heart beat furiously, and his anger and irritation sipped into me through the mate bond. I am sorry. The apology slipped from my lips the moment I entered the room. He had his eyes fixed on the door, waiting for me to gain enough courage to open it, and when I did, our eyes met and my wolf shuffled. I already sentenced him to death. His voice was cooler than ice. He sat with his legs spread out and his elbows digging into his thighs as he braced his chin on his knuckles. His bloodied knuckles, I can explain. I swallowed at the raw anger in his eyes. My wolf whimpered and I took a step back, prepared to flee. He looked calm, unfazed even, as he watched me. But his darkened red eyes showed me all I needed to see and more. Death would be too harsh a punishment for Cedric, even considering what he had done. You will explain, he emphasized. Tell me, Amethyst, where did you go? He crossed his arms. Why did my mate sneak off with a strange man? His voice deepened and my guts tightened. I was scared, terrified of the look in his hard, cold eyes. Even when I was nothing but a stranger that snuck into his carriage, he had not looked at me with such cold eyes before. Do not even try to lie. He growled and Kalia whimpered. I am a hybrid, I blurted, and he blinked. I never noticed how soft his gaze towards me had gotten until I looked into his eyes then. There was a sharp contrast between how he looked at me in the morning when we woke and now. That is not funny. His brows furrowed for a split second. That is a poor excuse. Yes, it sounds crazy, and after all I have done, you have every right not to believe me, but it is the truth. My mother was a witch. I winced as words bubbled out of my mouth. You never met your mother, he said, as if to remind me. How can you? Yes, I never met my mother, but Cedric. A growl rumbled in his chest. He knew my mother. We're from the same coven. Now, I went to see the coven, and there are a lot of them, and calm down. Bewilderment replaced the steel in his gaze. Take a breath and try again. I took a stuttered breath and started to explain everything, from meeting Crystal at the market to Cedric's first visit. Every time I mentioned that name, he looked ready to shift. I told him about what I learned about myself, and how I snuck out to meet my mother's coven sisters, and all they told me. He listened with rapt attention, but the more I spoke, the more his expression contorted. I left out the part where Cedric purposely made me sick, as I explained everything, and when I finished, he had schooled his expression. You trust these people? he asked after a minute of silence, during which I tapped my feet and drew circles on my palm. Not completely, I answered. A spirit mage, you say? I nodded. And the dreams? I nodded again. You met with their coven leader? He asked again. I met with all the adults in the coven. And one child. A hybrid, he muttered under his breath. Such audacity inviting the Luna Queen over. He shook his head. This is a lot, he finally said, and I nodded. I am sorry I hid it from you. Truly, I felt sorry. I worried him, and for no reason, too. What I do not understand is why you felt the need to hide this from me. His gaze sharpened as he stared at me. I blinked. There was no good reason why I hid all this from him and acted like a fugitive, like an unfaithful mate. I did not think. I hid everything from him on purpose, yet I did not have a satisfactory answer to give. I see, he muttered with a frown. You do not trust me. I opened my mouth to deny, but no words came out. His frown deepened. What did you think? I kept my lips tightly sealed. What was I thinking? Killian chose me for a reason, because I was a nobody from no pack and with no family. Now, I could see the past, present, and possibly the future. I was under no delusion to think I now posed a threat to him, but I was no longer the Amethyst he chose. The Amethyst he chose was not a hybrid. Did you think I would exploit you? His lips curled and the air around him turned frigid. Did you think... I didn't think that. I cut him off. It's just... Would you choose me if you knew I was a hybrid? Yes, he replied in a heartbeat. You are forgetting one thing, though, he continued. You are no longer my chosen mate. I blinked. We are true mates. Killian. I thought you were better than Seth, but you are just as foolish as he was. The redhead across from me threw her head back and let out a peal of scornful laughter. Killian, I have loved you since we were kids. Scarlet Hawk, she cut me off. What makes me unworthy of your affection? She looked me in the eye as she uttered those embarrassing words. Did your father send you here to talk nonsense? I growled. Despite having a mate, it seemed the Hawks would never give up trying to get me with Scarlet. As the Alpha of Dark Moon, Alpha Hawk and I met twice a month to discuss business. Today, he sent his daughter as his successor, and she had no interest in anything regarding business. No, I just have to get this off my chest. She gasped as if breathing was too difficult. I know it is shameful to ask this, but I need to know. Why do you hate me? I could list 1,001 reasons why I disliked Scarlet from childhood. As my brother's betrothed, she visited the palace often, and she liked to prance around like she owned the place. The palace was my home, but it never felt as unwelcoming as it did when Scarlet visited. I was sent off to the battleground because of you, I reminded her. Truthfully, I hated her before she even started her tricks. I was only 15. It was a stupid thing. How old was I? You sent me to the war front. In actuality, my father sent me there to be killed. He wanted someone to get rid of the evidence of his shameful act, but it was Scarlet that started it all. Apollo. Scarlet Hawk, there is nothing to like about you. You are a despicable person who is currently wasting my time. How can you choose a woman who is brazenly going around with other men over me? She pursed her lips. The entire kingdom is talking about it, and... Get out. Styx pushed to the surface before I could react. Kill. Now. A harsh growl spilt from my lips as Styx's anger intensified. Why, yes, your majesty. Her voice cracked as she backed out of my office. The audacity of this wench, my wolf exclaimed. Dark Moon has to go. And fast. Call Orion, I said to the guard stationed at my door. She said nothing useful, did she? Orion snorted as he took a seat. These days it's as if Alpha Hawk does not think. You have a mate, so why is he still forcing his daughter down your throat? He needs a red-eyed grandson. A pin dropping would be too loud in the ensuing silence. Did you not think of that? Bitter laughter bubbled up my throat. He is not that shameless, is he? Orion frowned. No, I think he is that shameless. My beta's jaw looked ready to drop open. Of course, if a bastard can be the Alpha King, then the Alpha King's bastard can also become the Alpha King. Hawk would do whatever it took to see royal blood in his lineage in his lifetime. Unfortunately for him, he ruined the only chance of ever seeing that happen. Be careful. His brows furrowed, and I knew he was thinking of what happened with Scarlet years ago. Those people, they are insane. My mate's face flashed in my head, and I gritted my teeth. I had a hard time believing her dreams about Seth, but now I knew they were more than dreams. A hybrid. "How is the Luna?" Orion asked when my lips pressed together. Cedric has refused to say anything, and I am worried that this will ruin our plans of joining hands with the mages. Forget about them. My beta blinked as I snarled. What? How can you say that after making me work so hard to... He cleared his throat as my eyes narrowed. But we have worked so hard to establish relations with them. He looked on the verge of cursing at me, but he held his tongue. The mages were up to something, and it made my skin prickle and my wolf snarl. Whatever they wanted from my mate would cost me too much. I swore to protect her, I muttered. I have to protect her. From the mages? Orion frowned. Not just the mages. Are they after her? I also had to protect her from myself. I have to protect her. But how would I protect her from myself? The emotions swirling in my guts were dangerous. How do I protect her? I raised my head and caught my beta's gaze. Assign her guards? He rubbed his chin. She is barely protected in the palace, and if she wants to leave, Styx growled. I mean, she may want to visit, he growled again. Or not. Orion pinched the bridge of his nose. How do I protect her from myself? My lips pursed. I promised to protect her. The way I feel, it is a threat to that promise. How is loving her a threat to protecting her? He frowned, with his head tilted to the side. Is this love? It did not feel like love. Love was sweet and calm. But this was madness. I want to have her in every possible way. I want to dominate her thoughts the way she dominates mine. I want her shackled. I trailed off. The words were too dark to utter. How could I tell another the wicked whispers in my head? If she senses half of this feeling, it would scare her away, and I would not be able to let her go. Ever. Are we talking about the woman that crawled into your carriage and even agreed to be your fake mate? Orion mumbled. With her fierce look, I'm having a hard time imagining her being scared of your feelings. But her fierce look was just a fierce look. Amethyst was not half as strong as her appearance made her out to be. Besides, I am sure she knows you are crazy by now, so I do not think... Every time someone looks at her the wrong way, I want to scoop out their eyes, I cut in. That's normal for an alpha.
Every time her eyes fall on another man, I want to make sure he never appears within 1,000 feet of her. When I think of her leaving me, I am filled with the urge to lock her up someone only I can see her. That's crazy. My beta swallowed. It was crazy and I knew it. A sane person would not think of doing something so cruel to their mate.
It was a crazy idea that I cast aside every time it entered my mind, because the last thing I wanted was to hurt Amethyst. But she snuck off. The dread that ate away at my stomach yesterday was worse than what I felt on the day my father announced he was sending me off to war. Despite our mate bond, Amethyst did not seem to feel any attraction or attachment to me. What would I have done if she left me yesterday? I pinched the bridge of my nose as I leaned back into my seat. I was frustrated and there was nothing I could do. If she knew my thoughts, she would run, and I would not let her go. You know, half the things you do are absurd, Orion said slowly, but somehow you always make them work. For example, sending the queen away. You know her family will not let that insult slide, but you did it anyway. That's why I say you are crazy, but now, it seems you are going out of your mind. I am. All because of one woman. Look, if you like someone, you should buy them pretty things and compliment them, not think of locking them up. I winced at how those words sounded coming from someone else. I know nothing about relationships, but women like pretty things. Give her nice things and stop thinking deranged thoughts, yeah? Pretty things. Could I get closer to someone who did not trust me with gifts? Was it possible to buy her affection? I would give anything to have my mate look at me with warmth, so it was worth a try. I made it to the front page of every single newspaper. The entire kingdom must be talking about me and how I snuck off with another man. There was a comment section at the bottom of one of the papers, where people rubbed my name in mud. All the papers talked about how I threw the palace into turmoil with my philandering ways, and one of the papers went as far as suggesting I was not fit to be queen and that Scarlet was a better choice. There was even a comment from an unnamed palace worker that detailed how the entire palace went in search of me and the terror and horror that gripped the innocent workers in the face of the Alpha King's wrath. Interestingly, people were even waiting for my punishment for adultery. "This is terrible," Sabrina, who was reading over my shoulder, exclaimed. "How can they write such horrible things about you, miss?" She boiled with righteous indignation. "If only they knew what happened. His Majesty will take care of everything, so there's no need to get worked up," Ella cut into Sabrina's rant. "As for the worker that went to tell tall tales about Her Majesty, they only have themselves to blame for whatever punishment His Majesty metes out." "Ha! Yes, they must be punished," Sabrina agreed. "It would not surprise me if she was the worker in question. But miss, what will you do about this? It's not good for your image," she pressed. "It's been less than 2 weeks since your Luna ceremony where everyone sang your praise, and this sudden—" As Ella said, "His Majesty will take care of it." The papers were horrible, but it was interesting to see them demonize me like this after singing my praises days ago. "I think it'll be better if you release a statement yourself. You can tell everyone what happened yesterday and lay all the rumors to rest," she insisted. "I hate how everyone is talking about you like this." She pouted, and I chose to ignore her from then on. I only had today to rest before I went back to work, so I should take time to rest. I was humming a tune to myself as I flipped through a retelling of the kingdom's history when someone knocked. As usual, Sabrina rushed to open the door, and then she squealed, "Miss Amethyst!" she screamed as she led in some men with boxes. "You've received presents." What is this?" One of them handed me a note as they laid out the boxes. "Can we open them?" Sabrina asked as she peeked into the first box. Thank you." I was in a daze as the men ushered themselves out. I skimmed through the letter and my heart stuttered. It was a simple and short letter in the writing I had come to associate with my mate. "These reminded me of you, so I got them. I hope you are thinking of me." "Dear goddess, you are blushing," Sabrina yelled, reaching for the letter. Killian growled and she took a step back. "I am not," I denied, but I did feel a bit warm and uncomfortable. "Let's see what's inside this box." I grabbed the box closest to me and opened it. "It's the royal silk!" Sabrina screamed, half startling me. "Goddess, but it's so hard to get. I wonder how His Majesty got this." "Are you forgetting he is the king?" Ella cut in. The two girls started a long tirade about silk, but I zoned out as I felt the cool material. Why was he sending me silk out of the blue? "The next box! Let's see these!" Sabrina yelled. I obliged her and reached for the next. "What? It's amethyst!" The words in the letter flashed through my mind, and this time I felt my skin heat. One by one, I opened all the boxes, and they were filled with different jewelry of all shapes and sizes. The more boxes I opened, the more bewildered I got. Why was Killian suddenly sending me gifts? Was it my birthday? I paused to think, but it was not my birthday. It was not our anniversary either. Was it a special day that I forgot about? I racked my brain for a reason behind the sudden gifts, but I found no answer. "Did His Majesty offend you?" Sabrina asked after we opened up all the boxes. "And no? If any one of us offended the other, I would assume I was the offender and not the offended." Is today a special day?" I regularly paused after opening each present to read his letter, and as I read it for the umpteenth time, I still could not fathom the reason for the gifts. "It's not your birthday, and His Majesty's birthday is still 2 weeks away. You both have completed your coronations, so I don't think today is a special day," Sabrina said with a frown. "Maybe this is his way of expressing his love," Ella murmured, and I blinked at her. His what?" My wolf was squealing while my mind was reeling. "Yes," Sabrina agreed. Haven't you heard that men like to decorate the women they love? Dear goddess! She touched one of the many purple accessories and sighed. Your mating is so dreamy, she sighed. Oh, he must have seen the newspapers slandering me, and now wanted to put on another show of love. There were no public functions to attend, so this must be his method of deceiving the public into thinking we were a loving couple. For a split second, I almost believed that the gifts could mean something more. You should send him something in return, Ella muttered. Yes, yes! It would be so romantic, Sabrina enthused. But what could I get him? I watched the necklace and earrings made from amethyst, and I wondered if I could get him something like that. Would he like rubies? His eyes always reminded me of rubies. Why did thinking of that make my skin heat? Cufflinks would be good. A brooch? How about a watch? I did not have a lot of ideas, so I asked the girls, and only Sabrina had suggestions. Unfortunately, her suggestions were a bit overboard. Oh, a horse, I blinked at her. Why would he need a horse when he had so many carriages? Besides, we were wolves, and wolves did not enjoy horseback riding. Just give him a kiss, Killian snorted. I am sure he would be more than satisfied. After a long bout of useless suggestions, we put away the presents, and I flopped into bed. I tried to school my expression, but my insides were dancing. It took a lot of effort to stop myself from going to peer into the drawer where we stored the jewelry. He had given me a few things in the past, but nothing like this, nothing so grand. In the end, I spent all day just gazing at the presents and fighting back a smile. The next day, I decided I should give him something too. A ruby brooch would be nice, and some cufflinks. Would a bracelet be too much? I was dressing up, preparing to go out when Ella handed me the paper for the day. Again, I made it to the front page. Rogue king, trying to woo, philandering mate with gifts. I froze and my wolf snarled. What the hell is this? Who printed this? I skimmed through the article and my brows raised with every word I read. The article went on and on about how Killian wanted to win me back by buying me expensive gifts. They made him seem like a foolish person pining after me while I went around with other men, mocking him. Before I finished processing the article, someone knocked. Ella opened the door and entered with the last person I expected to see, Scarlet Hawk. Seeing her intensified the fire raging inside me. Your Majesty. She bared her neck. What do you want? I greet your Majesty, the Luna Queen. She bowed her head, and my wolf growled low in her throat. I do not remember inviting you, I said in a low voice. Pardon my brazenness. She did not lift her head. It was a ridiculous appearance for such a proud person. I sought you out because I knew I would never receive an invitation. What is it you want? All my hackles rose just from seeing her in my space. I have come to apologize. Her head remained half bowed as she spoke. My apology is long overdue, but I hope you recognize my sincerity and forgive me. I could not stop my jaw from falling fast enough. My wolf stopped her growling, and the girls in the room quietly exited. What are you apologizing for? My brows raised as my wolf repeated the word, apology. It was not a word I ever dreamt I would hear from Scarlet, a woman that carried herself as if she had more authority than the Alpha King. For everything. She raised her head, and I was surprised to see her eyes were red. I was not stupid enough to lower my guard around a viper, but I would admit I was curious, so I offered her a seat and called Sabrina to serve refreshments. I watched her as she lifted her teacup with more poise and grace than my etiquette tutor could ever instill in me. I am curious about your apology, Scarlet. I broke the silence in the room. Why are you suddenly apologizing? My father. She set her cup down. I was surprised at how easily she confessed. My father has something planned, and it scares me. She looked me dead in the eye, and Killian flinched. What does he have planned? I asked, but she shook her head. I cannot say, because he does not trust me enough to tell me. How convenient. Why would Hawk not trust his flesh and blood? She took me by surprise with her apology, but I was not buying her sudden repentance. Hawk must be out to deceive me into letting my guard down. My father is... She paused to choose her words. It took me a long time to accept, but my father is pure evil. I stared at the spawn of evil as she shivered. He hit me recently, and I could not believe it. She turned her cheek to show me her already healed cheek. He wants the throne, and I have only just realized how far he would go to get what he wants. Did this girl not orchestrate the murder of the previous Alpha Prince? Watching her pretend to be an innocent person irked me. Only a person with royal blood can sit on the throne, I reminded her. There was a reason the monarchy had not crumbled since the founding of the kingdom. Who could challenge a monarch appointed by the goddess herself? I am ashamed to say, but that is the reason he tried forcing me on His Majesty. My wolf wanted to remind her that she was the one forcing herself on Killian, but I held my tongue. He wants to have royal blood in our family to secure the throne, but since that will not work out, he may try something else. Trust me. I know my father, and I know he can incite a rebellion. I see. Alpha Hawk would be desperate enough to try to overthrow the Alpha King, but who would support him in dethroning a king chosen by the goddess? People desperate enough for power, my wolf mumbled. It would be unwise at this point to underestimate how far Hawk would go in fulfilling his ambition. Kalia was right. If your father is plotting treason, it would be good for us, I mumbled, pretending to be unconcerned. Scarlet blinked. It would be the perfect method to reduce Darkmoon's power. Of course, you know he would fail. That is why you are here, aren't you? I asked in a flippant tone. In the event that he really tries to overthrow the monarchy, he would face a public execution along with his family. You underestimate my father. He has more than half the kingdom under his thumb. I am not afraid he would fail. She squared her shoulders. I am afraid he would hurt Killian. Kalia let out a loud growl. Do not call my mate's name with such disrespect, I muttered, my tone low as Kalia screeched at how informally she called Killian's name as if they were friends. Lovers, even. I know you both hate me, and that is why I came to you. I tried to talk to His Majesty, but he brushed me off, so here I am. My father will use me and discard me once he has what he wants. He would not think twice before going after the king, and my feelings are not a secret. She paused to look me in the eye. I felt cold, bitter laughter bubble up inside me as I watched her. Are you under the illusion that this will make my mates love you? I raised a brow as she flinched. I have loved Killian since we were kids, and I am not ashamed of my feelings. I may have gone about things the wrong way and made him my enemy in the process, and for that I am sorry. Now, I am not under any illusion that he would leave his mate for me. Her lips stretched in a sad smile. Yet, I can't seem to shake off my feelings for him. I am asking you to forgive me because so far, I have been foolish, playing stupid pranks on you and disrespecting you. I think it is high time I stop acting like a fool. This is a game, Kalea whispered. It was just the other day her father told her to be a bit like me because I managed to get Killian's attention after she failed several times. This time, instead of spreading stupid rumors about me and confronting me at every turn, she was taking a different approach, wearing a mask of friendship. I think if we work together, we can stop my father. I know it is impossible to improve our relationship with a simple apology. It is not. I cut her off with a smile. Her brows twitched, but she stopped herself from frowning. I have always admired you, Scarlet, I mumbled. I hated her, but her influence in this palace was interesting. How did she get everyone to love and support her when she was so obviously a cunning and malevolent woman? You have? This time, she could not stop her brows from creasing in a frown. I would admit I don't like you very much, but you have apologized, and I'm not one to hold a grudge. It was an obvious lie, as I held grudges against the dead even. Besides, you are offering me a golden rope. Alpha Hawk has to be knocked down a peg. She let out a breath, and her shoulders relaxed. I did not think you would forgive me so easily, she said, her tone frank. I was prepared to continue to apologize for as long as it takes to gain your forgiveness. What are a few spiteful words that cannot be forgiven? I grinned. Let us start afresh, Scarlet Hawk. I rose from my seat and she followed my movement. Come, I was on my way to buy gifts for my mate. You can accompany me. I stretched out a hand to her, and she observed my hand for a moment before taking it. We may not be able to beat Alpha Hawk at his game considering his arsenal, but I had better foresight than he did, and I could poke holes in his plans and force him to make a desperate move. I just had to find a way in which Scarlet would be of use to me. People paused to stare as Scarlet and I exited my quarters hand in hand. If I had seen this in a dream, I would have dismissed the dream as a lie. Scarlet and I holding hands like friends would not have happened even in my most bizarre dream. My heart sank as we came down the stairs. My eyes, as if drawn by a magnet, immediately found my mate. He stood with a smile on his lips, a smile directed at another woman. My chest became stuffy as I climbed down the stairs. I clenched my fists when my heart tightened. He said something and the woman laughed, a dainty sound that made my mate's lips stretch. My wolf growled when she touched his bicep and Killian raised his head. The smile on his lips fell. Scarlet Hawk. Killian growled and the woman beside him took a step away from him. I greet your majesty the Luna Queen. The woman greeted with a bow. I wished she would disappear from my sight. Looking at her made my wolf growl loudly and my chest tightened even more. The longer I looked at her, the clearer the emotion boiling inside me became. Hatred. Hatred bubbled inside me and I blinked, gritting my teeth when I realized I was glaring at a person I just met. I wanted to grab her and toss her out of the palace, but thankfully, I had better sense than to act on the sudden, unexplainable hatred cooking my insides. Raise your head. I forced my tone to be calm. She glanced at me when she raised her head but ducked her head when she caught my glare. I am Eliza Bale. She introduced herself with a bow. Another Bale? What are you doing with her? I did not realize Killian had climbed up the stairs to pull my hand from Scarlet's. He turned to her but she did not as much as flinch. Scarlet and I are friends now, I blurted out and he blinked. Who is she? I nodded at the woman he left behind. That's Eliza. Even hearing her name from him annoyed me. I pressed my lips together, surprised at my reaction. A bit of guilt ate at me as my mood worsened. The woman peered at me again, but turned in time. I had never met her before, so I could not explain the strong hatred I felt towards her. Why is she here? I asked Killian as he too asked a question. Friends? He let out a short bark of laughter. You are friends with Scarlet Hawk? Yes. I tapped my feet. Why is Eliza here? My wolf snarled her name. I see. Killian spared Scarlet a glance, not bothering to hide his disdain. I called Eliza over. He turned to the woman, and my hand moved on its own, tugging his sleeve and forcing his attention back on me. From the corner of my eyes, I saw the woman smile, and it irritated me further. She was beautiful, and her soft smile transformed her features. She was small, dainty even, with light-colored hair perfectly piled atop her head. Her blue dress fit to a T, and her back was as straight as Scarlet's. It was difficult to see a woman more beautiful than Scarlet. But this one, with her pure elegance, outshone Scarlet. Why do I hate her? I asked my wolf, unable to make sense of my emotions on my own. You are jealous, Kalia snorted. Was this what jealousy felt like? Angry and stuffy inside? She was a beautiful woman, but I had met other beautiful women, so why would I be jealous of her? If Her Majesty allows it, I would like to speak with her in private, Eliza said. Killian and Scarlet frowned. My guilt intensified. While I glared at her, she smiled at me. It is all right. My skin heated, and I felt as if I had been caught acting like a child. Jealous of another woman's beauty? I should be past that age by now, but... Killian started, but he held himself back. All right. He let go of my hand, and I felt cold. It was impossible for me to be sick, but why did I feel so strange today? I led Eliza back to the quarters where Scarlet and I emerged from. She followed behind me, her footsteps light and soundless. Have a seat. I gestured to the seat Scarlet vacated. She thanked me as she sat, and when I looked at her after taking my seat, she broke into a smile. Your Majesty, it seems we have gotten off on the wrong foot. She had a small, breathy voice. Everything about her seemed dainty, even the way she crossed her legs. There is nothing between His Majesty and I. What? I blinked at her, but for whatever reason my skin felt too hot for me, and a knot in my chest loosened. Why would you say that? I regained my composure and schooled my expression. Of course there cannot be anything between you and my mate. I seem to have misunderstood things. She smiled again, and I felt awkward. With the way you looked at me, I felt you hated me for touching your mate. She gave me a knowing look. I looked away. I told you that you were jealous. Killian snorted. He allowed you to touch him. Why should I hate you for that? I muttered, unable to look her in the eye. Why would I be jealous because another woman touched Killian? It was not a big deal. I tried to deny it, but I remembered how my guts twisted just watching Killian smile at her. It was a horrible feeling. My mate did not smile often. I had never seen him smile at anyone other than me. Watching him smile at an unknown pretty woman made my insides clench and twist. Goddess, what was wrong with me? I have known His Majesty for a while now. He is like a brother figure to me, but if you want, I will never touch him again. That would be perfect, something inside me muttered, but I shook my head. There is no need for that, I said out loud. How could Killian be a brother figure to anyone? Did he not spend his time fighting wars? How did he even meet her? So many questions plagued me, and the woman in front of me looked at me as if she could read minds. Her piercing gaze made me purse my lips. Jacqueline brought him home now and then, she said. You have met my sister, haven't you? She says she made you faint. Eliza shook her head. My family and I are sorry for her unruly behavior. You are Jack's sister? I could not contain the disbelief dripping from my tone. Yes, I cannot wield a sword as well as my sister, but we are indeed related. We have the same nose, see? She turned her face to the side and pointed at her nose, but I never took notice of Jack's nose, so I saw no similarities. How is she? I asked, to fill the silence that engulfed the room after she showed me her nose. She would not stop bragging about meeting you before I did. She had a fond smile on her lips as she thought of her sister. I imagined meeting my sister, my half-sister. Would we have gotten along? I thought of how different my life would have been if my mother did not abandon me. I thought of how different I would have turned out to be if I grew up with my family. What was it like having a family? I had to tell Killian about my father. It did not matter if he was as awful as Alpha Hawk. It would be impossible for me to rest easy with the thought of having a family out there that I never met. I have wanted to meet you since we entered the capital, Eliza said. I've been quite curious about you, Your Majesty. May I ask why? It is because your mating with His Majesty is quite dreamy. She winked. I wanted to meet the woman who made the Alpha King eat his words. He vowed to never fall in love, you know? She grinned at me, and my skin prickled. Yes, because only fools love, I muttered, and her grin widened. You heard that too? She laughed. It is interesting how fast and how hard he has fallen, isn't it? She spoke to me as if we were friends, her expression and posture open. Her friendliness made me suspicious, so I crossed my arms. Is it? She nodded. I never thought I would see him so nervous about something as simple as picking out gifts. The door opened, and she paused. Oh, Your Majesty. It may have been my imagination, but I think his cheeks were a bit red. Were you eavesdropping? I asked with narrowed brows. No, I just happened to hear this and that. He shrugged. Eliza, can you give us a moment? The girl did not need to be asked twice. She hurried off with a grin on her lips. I missed you. He pulled me out of my seat and sat me on his thighs, burying his face in my neck. My skin went up in flames. Did you like the gifts I sent? I slept off before he returned the previous night, and when I woke this morning, his side of the bed was cold and empty. Yes, thank you. I was going to get you something in return when Scarlet visited. I adjusted myself on his thighs, and he gripped my waist tighter. Something in return, huh? He kissed my shoulder. How about a date?
I was nervous. What did he mean by a date? Where would we go? What would we do? While nervousness ate away at my insides, Sabrina and Ella happily decorated me. Even Eliza stopped by to recommend this and that for my outfit. She seemed to think we were now friends after sharing a cup of tea. The initial hatred I felt had vanished as fast as it appeared. She was the last person on my mind at this point, as Killian filled my thoughts. And done. Sabrina bowed with a dramatic flourish when I got into my dress. I think His Majesty will fall in love with you all over again today. Eliza clapped her hands, but he is not in love with me, though. I kept my thoughts to myself, unwilling to ruin the boisterous atmosphere in my dressing room. Looking into the mirror, I could barely appreciate my appearance due to nervousness. Killian proposed a date out of nowhere, and although I refused, he was persistent. Did the Alpha King have the luxury of spending a day away from work? You look even more dazzling than usual, Your Majesty. Eliza had sugary lips, so she jumped into singing praises for me, but I could only force a smile. Although the dress was dazzling and the makeup was perfectly applied, I only felt my natural plainness had been hidden underneath all this garb, so all the flattery came in through one ear and went out the other. I left the palace in an overtly adorned carriage with my heart in my throat. Alone in the carriage, I took time to collect myself. Killian's sudden strange attitude left me feeling awkward. He unexpectedly sent me gifts and asked me on a date. Did this have anything to do with my hybridity? Maybe he needed something from me and wanted to butter me up. But that couldn't be right. Killian never bothered to butter anyone up. No, he merely issued commands, and the seat of the Alpha King always guaranteed compliance. That and his hard gaze. His gaze changed, though, Kalea interrupted. It was not until he looked at me with a blank and cold expression after I returned from my secret visit to the witches that I realized just how differently he looked at me these days. The way he looked at me when we first met and the way he looked at me now was very much different. As I mulled over what all of this could possibly mean, the carriage wheels rolled to a stop, and I found my breath stopping along with the horses. I smoothed down my dress with sweaty palms as my heart picked up speed. The carriage door opened, and I came face to face with my mate, decked out in his official uniform. He offered me his hand and helped me out of the carriage with a grim expression. He led me into a building which I could not take note of, as I was busy watching my steps. I focused extra hard on where I put my feet, as I tried to distract myself from his scent. He smelled the same every day, so why did his scent overwhelm me today? He offered me a seat when we entered, and then silence enveloped us. Hello. I broke the stifling silence in the empty room. Looking around, I realized we must have entered Luciano's Haven, as the restaurant that oversaw the only ocean in capital was called. I have something to tell you, he said, his expression still grim. My heart fell to my stomach and I frowned. Were we about to break up? Why did he look so resolute? Did I do something wrong? Even as I asked, I felt silly. It was only a few days ago I snuck out of the palace with Cedric. I thought we were past that, but it was a stupid thing to do, and he must still... No, nothing like that. His expression softened, but he did not look at me. If it is about Cedric, I was prepared to apologize, but a growl cut me off. Do not speak that name, he almost snarled. My lips clamped shut as his eyes darkened and the air in the empty restaurant turned to frost. While he brooded and I tried to understand what exactly was happening, a man came to take our orders. A single glare sent him scampering off, and I got even more perplexed. I was so anxious for this supposed date, but it seemed he brought me out here to fight. Your Majesty. I gritted my teeth as a flush of irritation spread through me. Eliza advised I save this for the end, he mumbled, meeting my gaze for the first time since he opened the carriage door for me. This has been perfectly put together to the last detail, but I am... He trailed off, poking the collar of his uniform. Why was he in uniform? I cannot bear to hold this off any longer, so I will say it. He cleared his throat, and the way he fidgeted with his collar made me anxious. What are you? He cut off my bewildered musings. You know, they say the first to fall loses. He started, and my brows furrowed. I opened my mouth to ask what he meant, but he continued, almost as if in a hurry. I've lost. What do you mean? I could not pull at my carefully styled hair, so I resorted to tapping my feet. I already lost, Amethyst. The way he said my name made goosebumps spread on my skin. I have fallen first, so I lost, but I do not think I can lose again. I have to make you mine in every way that counts. He stared at me long and hard. He stared at me with such intensity that his red eyes gleamed and I could no longer meet his gaze. I did not think, were we competing? I drummed my fingers on the glistening tabletop. Killian, I am not sure. I have fallen in love with you. It felt as if someone dumped a bucket of ice on me. I froze from head to toe. My jaw slackened and my mind went blank. My wolf howled, but otherwise, I could hear nothing past the sudden ringing in my ears. What are you? I spluttered, a fiery flame licking at my skin. The urge to duck my head overwhelmed me, and his gaze piercing into my skin made me feel exposed, vulnerable. I did not think you would be this shocked, he spoke with a frown in his tone as his eyes continued to bore into me. No, it's just, There was nothing for me to say as my thoughts ran amok. Was he not the one who said only fools loved? You're Killian, there's no need to put on a show. I looked around the restaurant. There is no one here to act for. I lowered my voice to a whisper, and his expression crumbled faster than a sandcastle. I see. What did he see? I am new to these feelings, so I do not know how to handle them or how to even convey them properly, but I never thought you would assume my words were lies. He frowned, and my heart clenched. I'm sorry. The apology dropped from my lips without a moment of hesitation. The way his lips twisted made my chest uncomfortably tight. Don't be. He gave a small smile. It's just that I said a lot of things in the past, didn't I? He continued to smile, a small, almost sad twitch of the corners of his lips. Can we put aside everything we said to each other when we started off? No, let's forget we ever pretended to be fake mates in the beginning. But why? I clenched my hands into fists as my fingers drumming on the table became too loud. That way, it may be easier for you to acknowledge our mate bond. My heart beat faster when he kept up that small smile. It's not that I don't acknowledge our mate bond. I trailed off. How could I not acknowledge that we were mates? Mating with him changed everything for me, so why would he think I did not acknowledge our bond? I just never considered. I trailed off again, realizing how wrong it would be to admit I never considered having a loving relationship with him. Well, it is out there now. I love you. My heart stuttered and his smile grew. I am not one to be satisfied with unrequited affections, so I am warning you now. He leaned forward. I can be a bit impatient. My skin flushed as he gave me a suggestive look. The rest of the date went by without a fuss. We chatted here and there, but we mostly ate in silence. I could not appreciate the spectacular view of the ocean clearly visible from our seats as Killian's words replayed in my head. We headed back to the palace after I successfully picked at my food without eating. I should have saved that for the end of the date, Killian muttered to himself, but I pretended not to hear. Did he spend the previous day arranging this with Eliza while I glared at the poor girl? I did not have long to dwell on my thoughts as we arrived at the palace to meet a commotion. What is happening? I asked as a shrill wail welcomed us into the palace. She has been screaming for a while now, Orion murmured. Your Majesties, the Luna of Dark Moon has passed. He killed her. Scarlet ran into my arms as soon as I opened the door to her room. That awful man, he killed my mother, she screamed in anguish. When I walked in here, I had no plans of embracing her. Everyone gave me bewildered glances when I said I had to see Scarlet, but no one stopped me, and now I had snot on my dress. You mean your father? She nodded as she continued to sob. I never thought Scarlet had a close relationship with her mother, but the way she screamed and cried, one would assume they were best of friends. But why would Alpha Hawk kill his mate? I had ideas, but none of them was confirmed. Who knows? Scarlet pushed away from me, raising reddened eyes to stare at me. He must have tired of her, or maybe he found himself another woman to join hands with. I watched her as she tried to compose herself. I made a mess of your dress. I am sorry. I accepted her apology and listened to her rant about how awful her father was. Truthfully, the sudden death of Dark Moon's Luna was interesting. She was never mentioned in any dialogue, but now that she died, I had a hunch her death would be more famous than she actually was. The next morning, Alpha Hawk and his daughter left the capital to return to their pack. Hawk was the only Alpha I knew who spent more time away from his pack than he did with them. I woke early to bid Scarlet farewell, but Killian almost did not let me go. Why do you have to see them off? He mumbled, burying his face in my neck as I tried to get out of bed to prepare. It's because of Scarlet, I answered, feeling my skin heat when he kissed my neck. About yesterday. Instead of thinking of what Hawk could be up to, I spent the entire night agonizing over his words. I found them hard to believe, but I would admit they made me feel good. Good and kind of weird. What happened yesterday? He raised his head and peered down at me, braced on one elbow. You said that. I did not dare look into his eyes, so I fixed my gaze on a spot behind him. I said I love you, he blurted out, the words foreign yet exhilarating. You may doubt my words, but that does not deter me. Whether you doubt me or try to hide, it does not matter. My heart is yours now, so take care of it. He leaned down and I closed my eyes, waiting, expecting, but nothing happened. Were you expecting something? He gave me a wolfish grin as my eyes blinked open. Hey, don't tease me. I froze after I spoke, memories of our first night flashing in my mind. He seemed to be thinking of the same thing as his eyes slowly darkened. It had been a while since he touched me, and I almost gave in to the heat in his gaze, but I remembered I had a mission. Scarlet would be away from the capital for a while, and to strengthen the pretense we had going, I planned to show up to see her off. You are beautiful, my mate murmured from above me, and then he buried his face in my chest. He could hear my heart skip a beat and start to pound a frightening rhythm, but thankfully, he said nothing. I remembered the day we started all this. The day he claimed me as his fake mate. After living my life surrounded by people that enjoyed putting me down, I had learnt to ignore every hurtful word, sieve out every insult, and pretend to not hear the cusses directed at me. But then I met Killian, and for the first time in a long time, I faced someone whose words mattered to me, no matter how much I tried to cast them aside. On the day our ruse began, he told me he found nothing enticing about my body. Once, he even said I looked like a boy. I want to believe you, I muttered with a sigh. It would be so much better for him to love me than for us to continue pretending to be a loving couple. Wouldn't the real deal be better than the fake? But it's hard, right? He asked, his words muffled against my chest. You are right, I said. We should start afresh. I felt his smile through my thin nightdress. Thank you, he raised his head. And I am sorry for making it hard for you to believe me. If I asked, would he apologize for the snide comments, for the dismissive glances and disregard with which he first treated me? I did not have time to ask, as I had to get dressed as soon as possible to meet Scarlet. You did not have to come out to see me. Scarlet was dressed in a black dress with a black veil covering her face. I am sorry I caused you such inconvenience. It's okay. I forced my lips to stretch in a smile. I had to strengthen this fake friendship as fast as possible so I could unravel their plan faster. The mourning period is for 30 days, so I may be away for a while. Although she stood dignified, she still managed to seem pitiful. Take care of yourself. I will write you if I notice anything suspicious. She whispered the last part, and then she set off for her pack. The atmosphere around the palace was somber for days after the Hawks left. The workers moved as if the Alpha King was the one who died, and anyone who dared speak above a whisper was met with a glare. This is such a depressing atmosphere, Eliza exclaimed with a sigh. Every day, Eliza dropped by for a chat, and surprisingly, I came to enjoy her company. It may be because she was scarily smart and thus made my work easier, or just the fact that her friendliness was hard to ignore, but I started to look forward to her visits. Aside from the everyday duties of looking into the palace's management and familiarizing myself with the pack, Killian's birthday was coming up in a little over a week. It was the first event I was in charge of, and I was determined for it to be grand and hitch-free. I didn't know the workers loved Darkmoon's Luna so much, I murmured, trying to decide if a 5-tier cake was too much or too little for the celebration. It's Miss Scarlet everyone is worried about. She cried so much and it surprised me. I had heard she hated her mother, Eliza said. The Hawks are up to something for sure. I bit my lips as I debated with my wolf over designs. It's only a matter of time before they meet their end. Eliza sneered with venom dripping from her words. I raised my head, surprised at her uncharacteristic behavior. She shrugged at my slackened jaw. Alpha Hawk likes to bully my father. I hate him. A knock on my door halted our conversation. I raced to the door, already knowing what to expect. Every day at noon, Killian sent me presents. From exotic tea to little notes, he made sure I received a delivery in his name every day. Today, I received colorful desserts and a simple note. I miss you. My lips twitched as I read the note. Right. I cleared my throat when Eliza giggled. I should get him something. After stuffing my face with sweets, I exited my office with Eliza and prepared to go out. Surprisingly, I met a ridiculous obstacle. Does this mean I have to shift to go out? I asked, my brows furrowing. None of the stable boys could look at me as they spouted impossible excuses. How could they expect me to believe that the entire palace did not have a single carriage available? All the carriages were under repair, and the horses were in no condition to even pull a carriage, no matter how small. Right as I opened my mouth to call them out on the ridiculousness of their claims, I saw Orion and Jack emerge from a small carriage. Orion, I hurried to them. Can I borrow this carriage? Somehow, there isn't a single one available to use at the moment. I greet Her Majesty the Luna Queen. Orion squirmed. Since there are no available carriages, why not speak to His Majesty? I need to go back. Come, Jack, we forgot something. He pulled the lady beside him, but she gave him an incredulous stare. Forgot what? She asked, refusing to budge. Even Eliza looked as confused as I felt. Never mind, I'll pick it up myself. Orion jumped into the carriage and slammed the door. It turned out that all the carriages did not miraculously combust. The problem was that I was not allowed to leave the palace grounds. Is it my imagination, or am I not allowed out of the palace? I asked as I entered my mate's office. It is not your imagination. He looked me right in the eye as he spoke. I opened my mouth to complain, but his gaze hardened. For Styx's peace of mind, you are not allowed to leave the palace without my consent. Does that make me your prisoner? I could not hide my confusion. No, that makes you my mate that ran off with a strange man. I could not meet his eyes after that. Was it not a bit excessive to restrict my movements? I hadn't even had any contact with Cedric or his coven since that day. I have an event to plan. You can invite any vendor you need to the palace. It seemed he had this figured out, but I was too surprised to speak or refute his argument. I'd never had my movements restricted like this before, so I didn't even know what to say. I am not going to run away. I tried to reason with him, but his lips stretched as his red eyes darkened. I flinched, leaning back into my seat as the temperature in the room dropped. Where will you run to? I blinked as his expression became increasingly ferocious. He leaned forward, arms on the desk. Where would you go, Amethyst? I looked from him to his fists tightly clenched atop the desk. He looked at me as if I said I was running away, and not the opposite. I am not going anywhere. I had nowhere to run to, and he, of all people, knew that. He chose me for that very reason. There is nowhere you would go that I would not find you, Amethyst. The way he called my name made me frown. He growled. No, he sneered my name. So do not even think about leaving. Are you all right? His eyes had darkened to the point of being frightening. His gaze hardened and his body closed off. Fine, he growled, leaning back into his seat. He scrubbed a palm down his face with his face lifted to the ceiling. I just wanted to pick out a gift for you. There was no reason to feel embarrassed admitting that much, but I felt my skin heat. It's not as if I had planned to run off from there. I haven't seen Cedric since. He cut me off with a growl, but I expected it. And I never contacted the witches since then, I explained as calmly as I could. It was frustrating and embarrassing to be all but confined to the palace, but it was my fault that he did not trust me in the first place. If it is to choose a present for me, isn't it right to have me accompany you? He held my gaze and gave a dazzling smile. His red eyes lightened, and the darkness and gloom hanging in the room dissipated. I avoided his gaze as his smile all but threatened to blind me, and not for the first time, I wondered if he was bipolar. You have work. I gestured at the piles of documents surrounding him. This? He rolled his eyes as if they were irrelevant pieces of parchment rather than the business of the kingdom. Orion can have a go at them. What is the use of a beta if I still end up working myself to death? He pushed out of his seat as he spoke, grabbing his coat. Now that you have mentioned presents, I am a bit excited. He offered me a hand, and I hesitated for a split second, but he grabbed my hand and escorted me out. The same stable hand that declared all the carriages were bad and the horses fatigued got out a magnificent carriage in less than 5 minutes, and then a horse for the escort. He kept his head bowed as we boarded the carriage, avoiding my gaze. I applauded his talent for lying shamelessly. "What are you getting me?" Killian asked once the horses trotted out of the palace gates. I assumed it would be shameless to ask like that, but he did not bat a lash as he spoke. He kept his eyes fixed on me with a small smile pulling at his lips. His excitement leaked into me through our mate bond, so I knew he was not just pretending to be excited. Since I had nothing definite in mind, I told him the truth. My plan was to roam about a bit and hopefully find 1 or 2 things good enough to give the Alpha King. "Jewelry?" It sounded like a question as I spoke. "Would you like to get fitted for new clothes?" "Yes, we should start with clothes." His grin expanded. Luckily, Marion's boutique is close by. We pulled up to a small woman's boutique unannounced, and she swayed on her feet when Killian and I entered. "I greet your majesties, the Alpha King and his Luna." Killian hummed, ignoring her greeting as he looked around the place. "What do you think about that?" He pointed to a dress on display, and I frowned. "That is a dress? Yes, I think the colors suits you. The design is a bit excessive. Madam Marion, let us see your fabrics catalog." Your Majesty, we can bring everything to the palace. I am afraid my boutique may be a bit too humble to accommodate you." "But we are here already." His grin turned sharp. "Besides, it was not so humble a few years ago when I visited." She gulped. "Your Majesty, why are you wasting my time, Marion?" She did not need to be asked twice. She rushed off on wobbly legs. Killian continued to hum as we were served refreshments. "What are you up to?" I whispered, as any loud noise may startle the girl serving with her head downcast and her spine stiff. I did not blame her. I could only imagine how nervous she felt. "Before we think of gifts for me, we should first get you a dress for the event, should we not?" he asked with an innocent smile that hid nefarious motives. We might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or as many birds. Before I asked what he meant, he fixed a stern glare on the girl pouring us tea. "What are you doing?" he asked in a cold tone as he leaned forward. The girl raised her head and found the Alpha King glaring at her. "Eep!" She dropped the cup and it shattered, hot water spilling everywhere. "Amethyst!" Killian exclaimed, reaching for me. "Are you hurt?" He flew to his feet, crouching before me. Belatedly, I realized a bit of boiling water had splashed on my dress. "I am fine." My dress was full enough to protect my skin, but Killian gritted his teeth as he inspected my left foot. Your Majesty." Marion emerged with the catalogs he requested. They dropped from her hand when she saw him crouched before me and one of her aides crying in the corner. Her eyes moved from Killian to me and then to the 4 other workers on standby who had their heads bowed. "What happened?" She swallowed thickly as she came closer. "You are in trouble," my mate said as he slowly raised his head. "Did you order her to do that?" To do what, Your Majesty?" The poor woman lost all her color in the blink of an eye. "Look at her feet." There was nothing wrong with my feet, and when I tried to tell Killian that, he ignored me. "You have harmed my queen." "Your Majesty, I am closing this place," he declared, and Marion swayed, bracing herself against a wall. "Pray to the goddess that this does not scar, else the price will be hefty." With that, he all but hauled me out of my seat and deposited me in the carriage. "What is going on?" I could not help but exclaim when we entered the carriage. "I am sorry. Harold will treat your wounds." He raised my dress again, but this time I slapped his hand away. "I said I am fine," I exclaimed. "What happened in there?" He sighed, messing up his perfectly slicked back hair. "I made a mistake and you got hurt. To weaken the opposition, their biggest pillars have to go. I had hoped Marion would make a mistake big enough to cut her, but in the end, I hurt you. I am truly sorry. If I had dreamt. I am fine, though." My mind worked at that confession. From the start, I knew Killian would use the slightest excuse to cut down those opposing him, so I was not surprised at his confession. "Wait, are we returning to the palace?" "We have to check your condition," he responded, and I had no choice but to throw a fit. I was perfectly fine, and I had to choose a gift as soon as possible. In the end, We visited a few more stores, but in every store, he picked out things for me, and when I asked about what I could get him, he said he would get something in the next store. The same thing repeated itself in every shop we entered. I almost pulled my hair out as dresses, jewelry, tea leaves, and whatnot piled up for me, but in the end, I managed to secretly commission a ruby brooch with the Alpha King's emblem and cufflinks that matched. It may not be enough, but it was a nice start. My body ached when we got back home. I stretched as my mate took a secret peek at my leg once again. "Is it possible to find a man in the capital with just a name?" I asked, fighting back a yawn. "It may take a while, but there are only a few things that are impossible for me to do," he bragged. "Can you find my father, then?" "Killian, I need every citizen of the kingdom documented," I told Orion. I noticed the dark circles around his eyes as he glared at me. "Why all of a sudden?" he asked. "Our directory is lacking and I want to remedy it now. Contact the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Everyone should have an identification card before the end of the year." "Are you serious?" He paled. "That is a short time to get everyone documented." "It is a good thing we have packs. Every alpha in the kingdom should know before the end of tomorrow that their members need to be documented. In fact, I should issue a royal decree that from next year, anyone without an identification card will be treated as a rogue. In the past, an identification card was required of everyone, especially those who entered the capital, but with my father's rule, things became lax. People did not bother getting documented anymore, as it was not mandatory, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs took the opportunity to divert the funds set aside for the process. Thus, a good number of the people born in the last 40 years did not have any means of identification aside from their pack connection, and those that lost their cards before then did not bother to renew them. If we had a more detailed directory of our people, it would be easier to locate a man called Sylvester. Of course, I did not plan on waiting so long to find my mate's father, but it was something that occurred to me while I was racking my brain on the fastest possible means to find him, the fastest and quietest. If I came out to say I wanted to find my mate's father, as many as 1,000 Sylvesters would pop up, and there was no standard means to confirm anyone's identity in this kingdom. "It seems you are trying to find someone," Orion muttered. "I heard you asked for a list of every male whose first name starts with S. There are easier ways of finding a person rather than forcing everyone to get documented in such a short time." "Of course, there are easier ways." I waved away his concerns. "Orion, I need you to find a man named Sylvester. I do not have his last name, but he is in the capital and he has a wife and a daughter." He opened his mouth to say something, but I cut him off. "No, I do not have a portrait, and I do not know what pack they belong to." Are you kidding me?" he exclaimed, flying out of his seat. He cleared his throat and settled back down when I glared at him. "Your Majesty, is that not too vague a description to use in finding a man in the vast capital?" He spoke as calmly as he could, but I could see a vein tick on his neck. "With your skills, I do not doubt your ability." He pressed the base of his palms into his eyes. Sometimes I pitied Orion. He was a hard worker thrust into the job of the Alpha King's beta in the blink of an eye. But then I remembered I paid him a hefty salary, and I did not have the time to pity anyone considering the work on my shoulder. "He is Amethyst's father." His gaze snapped up as I muttered. It was best to keep the issue of her hybridity a secret, even from my beta, but he should at least know who he was looking for. "Her Majesty's father?" I nodded, and he sighed. "If that's the case, I will do my best," he vowed. "Proceed with utmost secrecy," I warned. "You don't have to tell me that," he scoffed. "It would be a hassle if word gets out and a barrage of men start flocking to the palace to claim the position of His Majesty's father-in-law." Naturally, the issue of documentation was met with disagreement. Alpha Elias, the brother of my father's queen and Alpha of Night Howler's pack, headed the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and he took this as a chance to punish me for humiliating his sister. Elias' family were the third richest family in the kingdom and were one of the founding members. They had old money, but their power dwindled over the years thanks to Dark Moon and Alpha Baal's rise in fortune. He was one of the people I needed to take out for peace to reign in my government. It is impossible, given the kingdom's financial state, to carry out such a large assignment. Our ministry has long since been starved. What is the issue with our finance? I turned to the Alpha that headed the finance of the kingdom. Over the years, the treasury has been depleted and we do not have as much. You must take me for a fool, I glared at the idiot. All these men stood with Alpha Hawk and were nothing more than his minions, but to think they were also thieves? I am not sure what you mean by that. There had been no disaster. The wars were minimal thanks to me, and there were no more projects than usual, but to say we were going broke. Have you been stealing from the kingdom, Alpha Fraser? My nostrils flared, and I felt a sudden urge to do away with these men. The consequences be darned. Your Majesty! How can you even suggest such a thing? Elias cried in righteous indignation. Fraser has been an upright man whose family has handled the finance of this kingdom for the past 3 generations. How can you be so insensitive to? As Hawk was away, the mantle for interrupting me and belittling my words during council meetings fell on Elias's shoulders as the next most powerful, and he did it without pause. Alpha Baal. I called at the Alpha sitting quietly to the side. The last thing he wanted was to be caught up in politics. But I could not have a man with his influence stay in the background in such crucial times, so I made him the leader of the new Alphas. Your Majesty? Sweat beaded his forehead, but I was thankful his voice came out strong. You will organize a team to investigate the issue Alpha Fraser raised. How can a man like Baal investigate Alpha Fraser? Your Majesty, this is an insult to the loyalty and dedication that the Frasers have shown to the throne. Elias went red in the face. And if it is discovered that any of you have pocketed public funds, I ignored the barking dog. The punishment will be a public beheading. Let the ordinary wolves who you have deprived of comfortable lives watch your death and spit on your faces. The room went quiet after that. Everyone stared at me with varying expressions of surprise. There was a reason people secretly referred to me as a tyrant. Even Orion felt that sometimes I misused my power, but I had no political support. All I had was the power of the throne, which could be rubbished if these men continued to try pushing me back. I would wield even the most loathed power the throne afforded me, even if it meant people would utter my name as a curse. If not for anyone, I would do it for Seth, who loved this kingdom despite all it took from him. Yes, Your Majesty. Baal was the first to recover from the shock of my words. Your Majesty, the funds, they are not so bad. Fraser tried to backtrack. As for the documentation, the Alphas will pay for it. 50% of taxation. The door flew open before I could continue, and my mate ran in, her hair flying about and her feet bare. Killian! She screamed my name, and the relief that flooded her was hard to miss. Tears gathered in her eyes as she looked at me as if in a dream. Woman, this is no place. Elias started in a growl. This meeting is over. I got out of my seat as she tried to leave. I will see you all next week. No one moved. You mentioned something about taxation just now, so obviously this meeting cannot be over. Elias was the first to stand. He jumped out of his seat, his eyes flashing the red of his wolf. What is it? I reached my mate before she could exit the room. Tears spilt from her eyes as she looked up at me, and my heart tightened. Sorry to interrupt your meeting. I will come back later. Good. Elias huffed. I turned to them, and the other members of the council started to get out of their seats, one after the other. Elias's face reddened as people started to file out. Leave? I spoke as he opened his mouth to spout more nonsense. Amethyst? She buried her face in my chest, and I could only hear her muffled sobs. What is it? My heart thundered as she clung to me, her hands gripping my shirt with enough force to rip the material. Don't leave me, she muttered, and then she continued to repeat the same words. How could I leave you? Did she have a bad dream? I didn't have the time to ask any more questions as she went limp in my arms and horror choked me.